Hey, grace and peace, everybody. We're back. Happy Monday to you all. Thank God it's Monday. We made it. We made it through the weekend, and now we are here on a great Monday. Hopefully, your day started out pretty well. It was a pretty eventful morning over here at Whitaker Park, but we made it nonetheless. We made it through. Had a good conversation with John Amachuku earlier today. That was excellent. Talk with Pastor John and finding out a little bit more about his story and talking about my story as well. And of course, hanging out with Chief Executive Secondborn. Y'all pray for President Firstborn. Duke lost yesterday. So, you know, we got to console her. We got to console her. This is our first time experiencing this. So she's they're pretty sad over there in Durham, but you know, praise God. Anyway, hopefully you all are doing well. So shout out to everybody who's already jumped in to the best live chat on the internet. Go ahead and drop your like number, all that kind of good jazz like that. All right. I'm looking forward to checking out Frank Turek's return to UVU. I was over on Gary's channel last night. Him and Lisa knows. Shout out to both those excellent content creators. And I noticed that they were debunking some foolishness that was being shared by Baron Coleman. So I went over and checked out Baron Coleman's channel, and I noticed how many people were really upset about Frank Turek being at UVU. So I said, okay, if nothing less, then I need to go over and check out what Frank Turek is doing, and I need to figure out how we can keep how we can keep antagonizing them. So I said I will go ahead and review it today. So shout out to everybody. I appreciate y'all letting me. A lot of people told me about it and said you should check it out. So I do appreciate that for sure. Thank you so much. Good afternoon to you, friend. Hello, and how are you? Good to see you, Nikki. Hey. This was such a good talk. I'm so excited to watch it again. Thank you so much. Maybe you were one of the ones that told me to watch it. I appreciate it. Yeah, they made Baron upset. Oh, Baron, that's so sad. I think that mockery must continue until morale improves. We're going to continue to do that. So I hope he's prepared. Anyway, y'all, I do have a little warm up. I have a little warm up first before we jump in to Frank Turek. I have a little warm up to get us kind of in the right mindset. Okay, I actually have two warm-ups, and I guess we say three. I got two warm-ups, a pre-card, a mid-card, and then, of course, the main card, all right? So if you're familiar with USC, that's what we're talking about. So we're doing like some preliminary rounds. We got a mid-card, and then we got, of course, the championship main card event. So let's get at it. This one I think you'll find interesting. One of the reasons, if you've ever been anywhere here in the United States, let's go to the Apple store or electronic stores. You've noticed if you're at Best Buy or Apple or wherever else you pick up your electronics, a lot of these electronics are tethered down, they're tied down, right? But in other cultures, in other countries rather, they're not. So if you go to Apple store here in the United States, all the i products are going to be chained down or tethered down. Same thing if you go to your cell phone store, right? But if you go to the same store in another country, let's go to Japan, they're not tied down. Is there a reason why? Well, Eric July, shout out to Eric July, fantastic content creator. He had a little discussion about this, and I wanted to just hear your thoughts on it. So let's hear what Mr. July has to say about this. If you don't mind, green hearts in the chat when you can hear.
This past weekend has been very interesting. You've seen a lot of Americans and Japanese folk showing a lot of love to each other's cultures, and it's been awesome to see. That being said, I did stumble across this post from Senator Mike Lee that I wanted to talk about today. Now, in this post, Mike Lee is retweeting a Japanese citizen, I believe, who says, and I quote, "In Japan, we don't need to put locks on all of our Apple products because we won't steal them." And you can see a video basically comparing that. Stuff that you generally see strapped down in their stores are not. People are just getting it, looking at it, putting it back, and that's the end of it. So I want to answer this question for Senator Mike Lee, and what I'm going to say is going to be a very harsh reality, and a lot of people aren't going to like it. Now, I want to get this part out the way. I know you can't point to certain demographics that are likely to steal. You can talk about third worlders being imported, and that's not to say that those aren't an issue, but it's not the issue, and I'll tell you why. Now, this country, unfortunately, in this country, degeneracy has run rampant. And that wouldn't be necessarily an issue all by itself if you didn't have the political class working extremely hard to justify said bad behavior. America's gotten away from private property rights, from which all rights are private property rights, which start with yourself and the fact that you own yourself. It's called self-ownership. And all this material private property is an extension of that. Unfortunately, if you understand or rather listen to the different, like the rhetoric that these types use, they act like it's just stuff. And that's why you get folks that are so willing to and ready to try to part ways or have you part ways from that by taking it from you and using aggression in the process. That being said, like I said before, if the political class weren't justifying it, this wouldn't be a problem at all. You can just do stuff. You can just rid this country of all of this nonsense. You would think that America, of all places, is about liberty. You would think, unfortunately, it's not the case, but you would think that this would be the country that upholds private property rights. It does not. You remember during the Summer of Love in 2020, and you had all these people going business to business, looting the place, small businesses that never recovered, by the way. And what did you have all these folks doing, including some politicians, saying that it's just stuff? It's just stuff. Those folks got insurance. Obviously, they have no idea how insurance works, but it's just stuff. Who cares that they stole it from you? In fact, you had folks, because think about it. If you try to defend yourself, or rather defend your private property, what happens? You have to follow all these rules or the state criminalizes you for it. That's what was happening in 2020. I covered a story where you had this shop owner who had someone looting the place and they shot him dead. But because they live in a duty to retreat law, well, that became illegal and they charged the man with murder. This type of stuff happens. And this is why folks are so willing to steal. You have obviously pockets of this country that punish people or won't even give you a felony, depending on how much stuff you steal. If it's under a certain amount, right? You can steal thousands of dollars worth of stuff. It doesn't matter. We'll slap you on the wrist and you'll be right back there on the streets. That's your problem. It's not a complicated one. If America upheld private property rights, you could have and live rather in a just place. It also, unfortunately, validates other forms of degeneracy. This is purely a cultural problem. You incentivize bad behavior and therefore you get a lot of it. That's why it's not complicated. You don't need some psychologist or somebody with a PhD doing all this research and peeing away money. The harsh reality is exactly that. If you upheld private property rights and it was a non-negotiable policy, right, in this country, people would live in a country that was higher in trust, that's for sure. And you could live in a world where not everything is locked down. Now, again, I'm not saying that the demographic issue isn't something that should be discussed. I'm not certainly afraid to talk about it. What I am saying is that regardless of who makes up said demographic, if they're anti-private property rights, they have to be, in the words of Hans Hermann Hoppe, if you are going to uphold a civil social order, they have to be physically removed and separated from the rest of society. And for whatever reason, that sounds very, very harsh. But we're talking about literal criminals, people that violate other people's private property rights. It's not just stuff. It's an extension of their own self-ownership. It's theirs. You don't get to take it. And when you do take it, you should be punished to the fullest extent. And I'm not saying these slap on the wrist laws. If they're committing actual crimes, not these accidents, they got to go to prison. That's what has to happen. Cultural problem. Stop incentivizing bad behavior and you'll get less of it. I promise you.
Shout out to Eric July. I just thought that was a great summary of the problem. And just think about it. Just think about it. For example, and somebody mentioned right here, in California, they allow you to steal up to $950 and without it being a felony. Well, that means you're going to be doing it multiple times over. So if they're going with the premise that it's just insurance, or everybody has insurance, well, that insurance cost for them robbing a CVS or a Walgreens in California is going to get spread all around the rest of the United States. So your and my insurance costs are going to go up because of it. And of course, this happens in so many different ways, in so many different examples. It's just wow. But what if we just taught people, mind your own business and leave people's property alone? Like, how many times have we watched body cam where somebody gets trespassed? Like, just get off of their property. They said they don't want you here at this Taco Bell anymore. They said, no quiero Taco Bell for you. You got to go. Well, you want to sit there and fight and argue, the police come and now you're arrested. It's their property. Leave. Go away. Just something simple. I mean, I didn't want to turn into a large discussion about it, but I just thought that was super interesting how Eric addressed that. Shout out to Eric July. I think he's a great content creator and put out some great short clips like that. And I just thought you would benefit from that. Thank y'all, everybody who's up in here. Now, what you say, they reversed that law, though, and looting and stealing has gone down. There you go. And there you go. And I think that's what we should see. We should see tighter restrictions. I'm sorry. We should see a tighter enforcement, I apologize, of private property rights. Man, you have the right to own your stuff, and people don't have the right to bother, infringe, or damage or steal your stuff. That's it. Leave it alone. Leave other people's stuff alone. Now, what would that do? Maybe that'll incentivize more people to go out and do for themselves so they can get their own stuff because they know, one, that it's safe, and two, they can't get it from anywhere else. So maybe that would encourage and stir and spark the conversation that I need to get out there and work if I want to have stuff like that versus I'm going to go steal and rob somebody's stuff. Just something simple. I just thought that was super cool. Dope of Eric, and I appreciate him for sure. Y'all, thank you real quick. Thank you to everybody who's already hopped in and jumped in and hit the like button. Thank you to everybody who has participated in my March Madness on my channel. So at the current moment, I believe we might have a victor. I'll wait till the end of the night. I didn't pull it up. Let me pull it up. We are, if you didn't know, I picked the 8 best performing videos on my channel for the month of March. I seeded them 1 through 8, put them in a bracket, and we've been voting on the videos that do the best. So each day, so today is the championship round. I'm sorry, today is a championship round. They pull it up. And I think it looks pretty solid. Like we might know who the winner is, but anything can happen. If you haven't voted already, let me pull this in. If you haven't voted already, go ahead and do your vote. Go ahead, your vote still counts. Absolutely. All right. So we're down to my Asmon Gold video talking about Candace and then the former employee of Blexic. And at the current moment, Dom Lecrae, at the current moment, man, Asmon Gold is ahead. But maybe he might be like Duke, and Dom Lecrae might be like UConn last night. They were down 19 points at one point, and they pulled it off. So let me know what y'all think. I'll decide. I'll cut it off tonight, probably like 9 o'clock, and we'll go ahead and go. Let me give myself a like there, right? And we'll do that tonight. So appreciate y'all participating. I've never done that before. I thought it would be something fun. And it looks like most people enjoyed it. So I appreciate y'all, your feedback, and let me know what y'all thought about it. Maybe we'll do that again next year. Maybe we'll make it a regular occurrence. Every March Madness, we'll do a Whitaker version, J. Whit Park version of Whitaker of March Madness. Thank you so much. Go Blue. Oh, you talking about Michigan? Okay. Yeah, and I think because I didn't go to a school that participated in it, I was trying to explain to my wife. I'm like, I don't really get it, but I was feeling bad for my daughter last night. I'm not going to lie. I got to admit, I was feeling kind of bad for her because she was out with her little girlfriends. It was somewhere watching the game, and we were watching it here at the house, and I don't know what happened. I have no idea what happened. So I was like, wow, I guess this is the feeling. I mean, I guess this is how it feels. Can't always be a winner. But yeah, that's pretty wild. So anyway, that's my Final Four. My championship, I'm sorry. And let me know what y'all think about it. I appreciate you. Did you all know that there was another No Kings rally? I mean, this is the third one, and Trump has barely been president for 2 years. and they got the third No Kings rally. And I didn't even know what was going on. I didn't. And the bad thing is there was doing one here in my town. I didn't even know. I didn't even like, oh man. Anyway, it was a bust. It was a bust. I'm sorry. Right. Where's the king? There isn't one. I don't know. I have no idea what the whole point is. I really don't. Well, anyway, and where did like the whole king thing come from? I don't get that part. But anyway, I digress. Well, hold on. Let me back up. We got Cantifa talking about Christ is king, and they don't live it. We got these people saying there is no king, and there isn't a king. I don't fully know what's going on at this point. I really don't. Anyway, I found a gentleman talking about the No Kings rally, and it was super informative. I got a lot out of it, and I thought you all might enjoy it as well. So I'm going to bring it in. It is Dr. Turley and Steve Turley. Super informative. I just thought I got a lot out of it. And then from there, I promise you, we'll get to Frank Turek as well. So let's go ahead with no further ado. Let's get at it. Green hearts in the chat when you can hear.
So picture this. You're watching the news or you're scrolling through your X feed on a quiet Saturday evening, and you're half expecting the usual flood of triumphant legacy media headlines declaring that tens of millions of outraged Americans have taken to the streets and finally brought down the Trump administration in a glorious, nonviolent uprising of democracy. I mean, that's been the breathless promise all week, hasn't it? Thousands upon thousands of No Kings events erupting throughout the entire nation, the biggest protest in modern American history. But then the actual footage starts coming in, and instead of a glorious revolution, instead of a massive wave of fired up Americans demanding justice, you see geriatric white liberals waving pre-printed signs, Antifa masks, and literal communist flags with a hammer and sickle, and even someone spray painting "kill your local ICE agent" on a federal building. And you suddenly realize this isn't a movement. This is a meltdown. Welcome to the spectacular, chaotic, self-defeating disaster that was No Kings 3.0. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, I want to invite you into something deeper than just this channel. Every Monday night, p.m., I can't wait. This weekend, the world watched.
Okay, this is the part that I'm starting with right here. All of these communist flags, you can tell they got them all from the same place. Like, why is that not abnormal to somebody? I mean, we're pretending like waving communist flags in the United States makes sense. So let's just pretend like that, right? But why is it that nobody's recognized like, wait, they all got the exact same flags? Like, you didn't even get one from Temu, one from Amazon, and the other one at the Kmart market. Like, how do you have all the exact same flags? And we'll see this later on as well. Like, the coordination aspect should cause you to start wondering whether or not this is real and organic.
Abject horror. The far left desperately
same poles. They're using the same flag poles that wave the flags, everything.
The third time.
Totally organic.
To stage a massive, unified, totally organic, of course, non-astroturfed, non-King's Day throughout the nation. Now, what organizers promised would be a tectonic shift in American politics, a mobilization of millions across 3,300 events in all 50 states, it turned into what can only be described as the political equivalent of a far-left frat party that ended up with police.
$200 billion for healthcare, not war in Iran. All right, that's a printed sign. Like, again, I just don't see the signs that make it look like something that somebody put together in their garage. And I think this is in New York at the current moment.
It's being called. In LA, No Kings leftists began smashing up cement blocks and putting them in their pockets before moving towards DHS federal agents. Protesters were assaulting federal law enforcement officers with literal concrete blocks. In fact, you even had some nut spray paint kill your local ICE agent on a federal building. And as a result, there were dozens of arrests. These were scenes from Portland, if you can believe it. Law enforcement had a zero-tolerance policy for violence, and they cracked down hard on these protesters, which was a pattern repeated in cities all across the country. Law enforcement wasn't going to tolerate nonsense. Like I said earlier, this isn't a movement. It's a meltdown. It's a collective meltdown by some of the most neurotic people on the planet, and we're going to see exactly why in a moment. Here's probably my favorite photo of the day. Here's a liberal white woman who probably
well, it's a natural sign, though.
And look at her sign. My dog, well, sorry, I stand corrected. She lives alone with her dog. My dog is smarter than Trump. And the than is spelled T-H-E-N. Must be someone who graduated from the Laring Center in Minneapolis. This is the Democrat Party. This is the modern day Democrat Party. And no one pointed that out better than the great Scott Jennings.
These No Kings rallies actually look pretty representative to me of the Democratic coalition. I saw people flying the hammer and sickle in New York City. I saw Hezbollah flags. I saw Hamas flags. I saw Palestinian flags. I saw trans signs. I see weirdo liberal boomers out there. This is pretty representative of the Democratic coalition, and that's who funds it as well, by the way. And so I think if America looks at this and says, what do the two parties stand for? They got it at the No Kings.
No, I think if you Americans were out there, Republicans.
You like hammer and sickle? You like hammer and sickle flag?
That's not what that No King stood for.
They had a bunch of them.
And that is.
What did it stand for? What does a hammer and sickle stand for? Like what? What does it stand for if not for communism? And that woman, you can tell she's mad because she knows. Like when people are pressed about their bad ideas, they don't like having to deal with the fact and sit in the reality that what they have espoused and what they're spouting out of their pie holes is bad ideas. Like she just doesn't want to admit that. All right, let's go. Let's see. Let's keep this going.
They come from somewhere.
All right, No Kings rally? I did. I went to 6, and I'll tell you, there's so much excitement.
6?
There's so much energy. Yeah,
that's a lot of free speech.
I'll get you a T-shirt. You should come.
That's a lot of free speech for a country with a king.
That's a lot of free speech. And I'll tell you, there's so much.
Like this woman, you can tell she picked up what he was throwing down. Like that's a lot of free speech for a country with a king. Like, don't you get what you're doing is inconsistent? Protest fatigue is wild. That goes crazy. Let's go.
Bingo. Scott nailed it. Bingo. There's a whole lot of free speech going on in a nation ruled by a dictatorial king, ain't there?
Ain't there? Yeah.
One X account put it this way. 9 million attended the No Kings protest against President Trump. No protesters were killed. Millions of Iranians protested the Ayatollah and the Iranian regime. Over 30,000 were killed. They were shot by snipers. They were hanged from cranes. Do you see the difference? You see, and 9 million, I think, is being a bit generous. A number of people who live in blue states have pointed out that the numbers were down significantly from the past 2 No Kings rallies. But regardless, more and more people are recognizing the absurd performative contradiction inherent in these rallies, right? Most particularly the ones in New York City, flying the flag of a bona fide tyrannical regime responsible for the deaths of hundreds of millions worldwide. I mean, the very fact that these people could protest so freely on the streets completely contradicts what they claim to be protesting, right? They're like trying to push the bus they're trying to ride on.
That's crazy. Yeah.
It's like they're saying we can't express ourselves with words. It's a performative contradiction. They're refuting what they're claiming by the act of claiming it. I love this. Someone flew a banner in the sky above the LA No Kings rally that said, "Not a king, he's your daddy."
Do you ever think about it? Like the fact that you're saying that you're able to say freely that you don't want a king is evidence that you don't have a king. Like, I don't see why that's why people can't fully wrap their minds around that concept. We are free in this United States, whether you like it or not. Sure, we might have a discussion, Maybe you're not as free as you want to, or maybe there are some freedoms that you wish they would not infringe on, or maybe you want them to infringe on your freedoms. I don't know. But you cannot deny that we don't have a king. And therein is the rub. Okay, let's keep this going. I thought that was hilarious.
Not a king. He's your daddy. I love it. But all of this does raise a question, right? I mean, with all the performative contradictory antics, what on earth is really going on here? Right? Besides the Soros-funded NGOs, what's really driving these affluent white boomers into performing this kind of absurdity?
Okay, I really want you, somebody said that on their exercise bike. That is he. I'm trying to ride my exercise bike while I watched, so my heart rate is up. All right, I need everybody to pay attention to this. This was such a very good point about who it is that is participating in these protests and why certain people you don't see in the protests, but you see a lot of another people group or particular groups of people running these quote unquote protests. Why is that? I thought this was really good. Let me know what y'all think about it. Let's go.
One New York psychologist has a fascinating insight into this, and it's going to absolutely blow you away. But first, did you know they're saying the next pandemic is already here?
Sorry about that. I meant to cut the commercial off.
0233. A New York psychotherapist named Jonathan Alpert, who wrote an op-ed critically diagnosing the last No Kings rally several months back, he reappeared this weekend and gave a pretty fascinating assessment of the whole ordeal. He does indeed confirm that many of these participants in these rallies are indeed suffering from neurosis. The people who came out, many of them elderly, many of them retired, they admitted on camera that they couldn't enjoy a vacation. They couldn't enjoy time with their family or their loved ones, all because of their psychotic fixation with Donald Trump. And so the psychologists argued that these...
Can you imagine that? You have the opportunity to go on a vacation with your spouse, with your loved one, with friends or whatever, right? Or go to a anti-Trump rally. Like, I don't even know what universe those two things would be in the same discussion. Like, what are you talking about? But you don't want to go on vacation and relax and unwind. You're retired. So you've lived your life, you've done life, and now you're at a point where you can retire and do retire things on a cornhole or shuffleboard or whatever, right? Pickleball. Or you can go to a No Kings rally. Y'all, come on. Stop playing. Watch what he says, though. This is super interesting.
These people are not protesting. They're medicating. Isn't that interesting? They're not protesting. They're medicating. They're using a political rally the way an addict uses a substance for temporary relief, for the dopamine hit of collective grievance, for the illusion of doing something meaningful while their movement quietly collapses all around them. And for me, what was most fascinating in this analysis is that the psychologist diagnosed politics as a form of religion for these protesters, right? Politics has become the new religion of the radical left.
Let me make sure I drop this link for you all, because you might want to go back and check this video out. And I'll pull up the Gateway Pundit, and I'll make sure that article that he's referencing is in here. Politics is the new religion of the radical left, not the right, the radical left. And the more we think about it, the more you're probably nodding your head like, yeah, I can kind of see it. Watch what he says. And the video link is right here. I am going to run it back a little smidgen. Y'all know I like to do that. I'm going to run it back just a little smidgen and get a running start. Let's go.
Politics has become the new religion of the radical left. And in many respects, I have to say, there it is. Right there. There is this whole thing in a nutshell, right? When you strip out the transcendent, when you secularize everything, as the modern world attempted to do over the last century, when you privatize the churches, pushing them out of the public square itself becomes sacred. Government becomes your new church. Politics becomes your new evangelistic religion. And now the political enemy becomes demonic. And your protests become a revival meeting.
That's
Except
crazy.
Instead of hope and transformation and grace, you're basically left with good old-fashioned pagan calls for human sacrifice. I mean, there's no grace in this leftist religion. There's no forgiveness. There's only blood guilt. If you're a political enemy, you need to be destroyed. You need to be sacrificed, and the land needs to be purged of you. That's why these protests continue to increasingly descend into violence, because violence is precisely what this bizarre hyper pagan religion requires. And you'll notice, because this is a cult, it only attracts particular kinds of people. The demographics, in the end, exposes this meltdown for what it really is. Like Scott Jennings said earlier, this matters enormously for understanding where the Democratic Party is right now. Everywhere you looked across the country this weekend, you saw a sea of overwhelmingly white.
Look at this picture, man. Just take a second and process this. As he's describing it, now I have seen some protests where there were younger people, but that was really a fluke. Most of these protests that I've seen and the highlight reels that I've seen have been this kind of breakdown. Older, 40-plus-year-old white people that are behaving ways that I would not expect a 20-year-old to behave. Well, like, check it out.
Overwhelmingly older, overwhelmingly female, affluent liberals. Gen Z, the generation the Democrats have been counting on to save them, to give them an unassailable electoral majority for the rest of the century, was nowhere to be found. Latinos, the other demographic on which Democrats have built their entire future projections, also nowhere to be found. These two demographics in particular that the Democrat Party has staked everything on had literally zero interest in this feeble political stunt. And the crowd that did show up, interestingly, they represented what social psychologists call symbolic management of protests. In other words, nobody's putting their livelihood at risk. Nobody's facing real consequences for their participation, the shutdown of what's called life choices. Nobody's sacrificing anything to do this. Just comfortable, affluent, white, elder liberals performing resistance to maintain their self-image as progressive activists while staying safely inside their comfortable liberal bubble. Gang, this is why the right is winning. The left has gone demonstrably performative and psychotic, while the right, like a muscle that's been built through resistance, is fit. It's literally physically fit, flourishing in faith and family, having children while liberals are not, building thriving red states while blue states languish under the weight of their own failed policies. Trump won the popular vote. He's implementing exactly the policies he campaigned on democratically. And what we saw over the weekend is a microcosm of the sad, dying state of the Democrat Party. No Kings 3.0 wasn't just a tactical failure. It was a preview of a political movement in its final, desperate phase, mistaking noise for influence and performance for power. The future of American politics will not be written by aging liberals hurling concrete blocks at federal agents in downtown Los Angeles.
That's crazy.
It's going to be written by the next generation, the generation that values faith, family, and genuine results over manufactured outrage and political cosplay. As Saturday's events made unmistakably clear, there's a vast difference between authentic political resistance, like the MAGA movement that genuinely fought for real Americans at real cost, and expensive, Soros-funded, performative theater. The former builds lasting civilizational change. The latter provides temporary emotional satisfaction while accelerating political irrelevance. One humiliating, self-defeating, concrete block throwing demonstration at a time. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section below. And as always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button for breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. Love you guys. God bless.
All right, so that was Dr. Steve Turley. That was a good one. I enjoyed that. I just thought that his take as it relates to why people do these protests as a form of medication, medicating themselves, getting a dopamine hit. I can see that. I can totally see that. I can totally see that. Why are there certain demographics? Like, you don't see black people there. Not saying that black folk don't protest, because I'm gonna pull up a video real quick of some black people doing the wrong thing in a second, because we gotta be fair and balanced here. But why is it that, they don't talk about why there are not black people at the No Kings rallies? And I'm sure there are some, I'm sure. But the many that I've seen, I didn't see many Hispanics and I didn't see many black people. I did see a lot of whites and a lot of older whites at that. And it's just interesting that that's the case. So anyway, I appreciate the mods for dropping the link to Dr. Turley right there. Let them know, man. I thought that was a great summary. I really did. I thought that was very beneficial to what we've been talking about. And I thank y'all so much, everybody who jumped up in here. The good doctor made sense. I like it. Thank you. Okay. Off topic for a second. Have y'all seen these videos? I'm sure, have you been scrolling? Have you been scrolling on any, social media platform? Eventually you run across these videos where kids are riding bikes and there's a mob of them, tens, maybe even 100 bikers riding down the street, and they're zipping in between cars, going in the opposite lane, just causing chaos on a bike. Have y'all seen that? Put a bike emoji if you know what I'm talking about, right? And you've seen it and you've been like, man, look, I want this kid to get hit, made a tire pop, whatever, because it's totally disrespectful, especially to drivers who don't expect it and it's such like that. Like, I have a new driver in my house that would be totally out of pocket. You've never seen these? These really? Black people at home on the grill. Guilty as charged. I was cooking yesterday. Absolutely. Y'all have never seen these? Oh my gosh, man, they're terrible. Okay, well, anyway, have no fear. We're gonna watch one. Real, I am totally surprised. I might be on the wrong side of the social media streets then. There is no way. Kiana, you telling the story. The lies you tell. No way. No way. Kiana, now Kiana wants me to believe. Let me pull up a video. Hold on. Let me pull up a video of them actually doing it, and then I'm gonna show you what it is that I'm celebrating. Oh man. I am really surprised I have never seen these before. Okay, here's one right here. Well, I think this was in California. This one we're gonna be going to in a second anyway. All right, and pull this in. Check this out. All these kids riding their bikes in the middle of the street. Let me mute it just in case they do. Like, look at all these kids. Now, if they was just riding their bike to school or riding to get healthy, that would be one thing. But no, that's not what they're doing. You've never seen this before? Okay, so I think we all can agree, whether you've seen it before or not, I think we all can agree this would be havoc causing on the road. Now, this happens also. This is like in Nashville, I think it is, where they're riding ATVs and quad runners down the street doing the same thing, just taking over the road, just being a nuisance. Here's one right here in the bike lane. Now, this is one of those bike lane auditors. Oh, here's a motorcycle one. Y'all have never seen these before? It is craziness. Okay, so I think we got the premise. Okay, I think we all can agree that that would be a nuisance, right? Right. All right, so I've always wanted to, I hate seeing these, man. I hate it whenever I've seen them. Like, apparently I'm the only one on the channel that's actually seen it. But I'm like, man, this is so disrespectful, man, to people that are driving. I've seen people get hit by them. them get hit by cars run over. I mean, just insanity, man, just total insanity. Well, in California this past weekend, they caught 85 of them. They were about to do a bike takeover on the highway, and they caught them on the on-ramp. They blocked them in on the top and the bottom of the on-ramp and just started arresting them and taking their bikes. So let me bring this in so y'all can see what I'm talking about. Here we go. All right, let's go. It's real short. Volume. There we go. Green Hearts in chat where you can hear.
CHP and SFPD units responded. SFPD's Real-Time Investigation Center conducted surveillance on the group, providing intel and updates. The large group of bicyclists then attempted to enter the Bay Bridge via the Harrison Street off-ramp against traffic. SFPD and CHP units were able to successfully stop the group before they entered the freeway, and again stopped them from going back onto San Francisco streets as they rode back down the off-ramp. The large group was detained, processed, and cited without incident. All bicycles were seized and stored by the CHP. 85 total citations were given, along with 85 bicycles stored.
That's my people. There we go. Shout out to Cal.
You see where you are right now? You're on a freeway.
On March 28, 2026, the California Highway Patrol notified the San Francisco Police Department of a large group of bicyclists in San Francisco who may be a part of a planned Bay Bridge takeover. Multiple CHP and SFPD units responded. SFPD's Real-Time Investigation Center conducted surveillance on the group, providing intel and updates. The large group of bicyclists then attempted to enter the Bay Bridge via the Harrison Street off-ramp against traffic. SFPD and CHP units were able to successfully stop the group before they entered the freeway, and again stopped them from going back onto San Francisco streets as they rode back down the off-ramp. The large group was detained, processed, and cited without incident. All bicycles were seized and stored by the CHP. 85 total citations were given, along with 85 bicycles stored.
Shout out to them. I just thought that was, look, every now and then you got to give California credit when they do something right. And shout out for them, man. That was crazy. Did you see all those kids were going up? They were trying to get on the highway, going up on the off-ramp. So that means they would have been going in the wrong direction of traffic. Like, see, that's what I'm talking about. Like that. That's crazy. And you're not supposed to be a bike on the highway anyway. I think they had to pay a fine to get their bikes back. But I don't know what's wrong with people. They're not raised right. No, those are bicycles. They did show an e-bike that looked like it was pretty souped up, but most of those are bicycles, just old school, pedal power, pedal pushers type bicycles. So anyway, I just thought that was I found that interesting, and I wanted to share with y'all because sharing is caring, y'all. Sharing is caring. All right, y'all. Y'all said Jason. I thought we was coming over here to hear Frank. I want to hear Frank talk about Frank Turek recently returned to UVU, and you know, he was doing some good Q&A. And so I thought this would be a good night to look at this one and get your thoughts on it. So let's go with no further ado. I'm gonna probably let him talk through the whole question. Maybe I'll interject. I'm not going to interject a whole lot, but I might, because y'all know me. Green Hearts in the chat when you can hear.
One of the things that I've been hearing about online is that Charlie Kirk was considering converting to Catholicism.
I want to push against the idea that humans have free will. If Islam were true, would you become a Muslim?
I actually was there the day that Charlie Kirk was shot.
Mm-hmm.
What is the biggest plot hole in Mormon ideology?
So my question today is revolving around the topic of lust.
What would be your response to the witnesses that we have for the Book of Mormon?
You know what? Great, he existed. You know what? Great, he did miracles. You know what? Great, he even rose from the dead. Mm-hmm. Why should that matter for me?
Oh, okay.
So later, after Erica meets with the doctors and meets with Charlie, and this is maybe 6 hours after, I see her in the hall. She's a mess, as you can imagine. Comes up. We hug. She says, he loved you, and he was doing what he wanted to do. Please don't let his legacy die. That's why we're here.
All right. I don't know. Is this on?
All right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's your name?
My name is Jeb Jacoby.
Jeb, go ahead, sir.
Okay. So one of the things that I've been hearing about online is that Charlie Kirk was considering converting to Catholicism. I'm actually a Catholic myself.
Okay.
So I was wondering, how true is this rumor and how close was he to going down this path?
Let me think about it. False. Charlie Kirk loved Catholics like I do. I came out of the Catholic Church. But Charlie was an evangelical Christian like I am. And I don't know if you saw his little debate he had with Michael Knowles, maybe 6-8 months before he was murdered. Michael Knowles is a Catholic, and they went back and forth on those issues. Okay, but look, I'm a Protestant. I came out of the Catholic Church, and sometimes people, most of the time I do speak to Protestants, they'll say, do you think Catholics can be saved? And I say, I even think some Baptists can be saved. Okay? Yeah. Because it's not where you go to church, it's whether or not you've accepted the free gift of eternal salvation that we talked about earlier. Have you done that?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful.
Thank you.
You're a brother then.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
I appreciate that. Now, I'm sure he could have waxed more eloquently and kind of expounded a little bit more and said why Charlie wasn't, or what was the problems that Charlie would have with Catholicism. But hey, that was a fair answer. I don't think he was doing the most. I don't think he was teamed the most with that answer by any means or measure. Let's go.
Yes, sir. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Jaden.
Jaden, go ahead, sir.
Jaden.
Yeah, I want to push against the idea that humans have free will. I think if there is
Hold on.
Yeah.
Are you freely saying that?
I don't think so, no.
All right, then we have nothing to debate because I'm just debating a robot.
Well, I'll push past that for a second.
Okay.
I think if there's...
Who will push past it? The laws of physics or you?
Well, I think there's a bit to get into here.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah. I won't interrupt anymore. Go ahead.
Thanks, I appreciate that. So I think if there's particularly if there's an omniscient God, I think it's impossible for humans to have free will. I think because if there's omniscient God, God has perfect knowledge of all choices that all humans will make. And I think a good definition of free will is a choice is made freely if and only if it is possible for that person to have chosen differently. And so take any choice, for instance, let's say God knows you will choose to read the scriptures on your 40th birthday. And then on your 40th birthday, you don't read the scriptures. You choose not to read the scriptures. There's a contradiction here where God knows that you would read your scriptures, but you didn't read your scriptures. And so God is then fallible. And so I think with that in mind, if God has a perfect knowledge of all of our choices, it would be impossible for us to make a choice outside of what he knows we will do. And therefore, it is impossible for us to choose differently than we do choose.
Let me ask you a question.
The free will argument. I don't think he answered. I don't think he understands that question. I don't think he understands his own question. I hate to say it like that. To me, I think the free will argument is pretty weighty. I understand it, and I feel like I can explain it to him better. I'm sorry, I could give a better scenario, but I wouldn't be arguing against it. Me and Frank Turek are probably right on line with that. So let's see how Frank answers it. Let's see.
Because a mother knows that her baby's going to wake up in the middle of the night and want to eat, does that mean she's causing the baby to wake up?
No, but I don't think
Stop. That's the answer. Just because God knows what we're going to do doesn't mean he's causing us to do it.
I don't think the problem is causal. I think it's, going back to the definition, it's a matter of like epistemology. It's a matter of, it doesn't even it could be you cause, it could be you make the choice.
Then you have free will.
If it's impossible for you to choose otherwise, which if you agree.
No, if you had chosen.
Okay, that's what it is. I think the problem is, it's not impossible for me to choose. Like, I own a Mac computer. I could have chosen to get a PC. I made that choice, but I can only choose Mac or PC. I can't choose to, have an ant be my computer system for this podcast. I can't choose that because it's not an option. So you can only make the options that are available to you. Somebody said, I can't choose to live forever, be 9 feet tall and fly like Peter Pan. I can't make those choices, but I can choose to have an unsweet tea and an iced coffee. Those are my choices. I could have water too. I guess I could go get that. But you see what I'm saying? I can't make choices that are outside the realm of my ability to make a choice. So certain things I can't do. And so I think that's where he's getting hung up on, because he realizes that it's not a matter of just Mac PC, unsweet tea, and water. It's a matter of the fact that we can't choose God unless God makes it available for us to choose him.
Otherwise, God would have known that. He would have known you would have chosen the other option.
But then if he knows in advance, he
knows what you're freely going to do. He's not causing you to freely do it.
That's correct.
Yeah, I don't think God has to cause us to do these things in order for free will to not be compatible with omniscience. It's just a matter of if we accept that definition, and we do accept, the premises and logic I've laid out here, that like if God knows you will do something, it's impossible to do other than the thing that he knows you will do.
But the reason he knows you're going to do it is because you freely chose to do it. If you had chosen the opposite, he would have known that. So you have the free will to do whatever you want to do, but God knows what choice you're going to make. That's you still have free will.
Yeah, I'm not sure that pans out, because when you're a child, like think of like a newborn baby, and God knows what that person is going to do on their 40th birthday. And so God can look at that baby and
he hung up on his 40th birthday, y'all. If this man, look, I don't know what he's going to do on his 40th birthday, but he is going to get turned up.
All of the decisions that baby is going to make. And then we look at that baby and we say, you have complete control over your life. But that doesn't work out with the idea of that baby, it doesn't work with that definition of free will. A choice is free if and only if it is possible to choose otherwise.
It is possible to do otherwise. See, God's outside of time.
I would like for the young man to tell me, what is a choice that he can't make? And I think that would help explain. Like, what do you mean? What is a choice that you want to make that you can't make? And he's going to probably say something that God can do. Because you can choose, like he chose to wear that black mock turtleneck and the gray plaid button up. He chose that. But he could have chose to wear a t-shirt like Frank did. He could have chose to wear, something else. He could have done that. He chose that, and that's fine. Now, but he cannot choose to be 9 feet tall and fly like Peter Pan. There we go. He got a case of the pre-midlife crisis. I'm telling you, man, that dude he's excited about being 40. I'm telling you.
It's the end from the beginning. Maybe another illustration will help. Not a perfect one, but let's suppose you love football. You're away one Sunday, and you have NFL tickets, so you tape all the games, or you TiVo all the games, whatever.
TiVo
and then
crazy.
On your way home, you were going to elect to watch one of the games, but your friend texts you the final score, and you go, I didn't want to know the final score. I wanted to watch it as if it were live. So now you turn the game on anyway, and you start watching it. You already know the outcome. Does that mean the players on the field don't have free will?
Well, no, but I think
they still have free will. I got to move on.
Yeah,
all right.
No,
thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. God bless you.
I would just like to know, what is the free will that he wants to, what is it that he wants to do? Like, again, we talked about the Duke game last night. That young man, he exercised his free will to try to pass that ball down the court when he could have just held it and got a foul. Well, he exercised his free will. The ball got taken away by UConn. I don't know how, but that boy shot that shot 6 feet from behind the three-point line, it looked like. And guess what? They're going to the Final Four. All those things are choices that they made. And God knew the choices they were going to make. Well, what's the problem? Let's go. What's this young lady going to say? Let's see.
Yes, ma'am. What's your name?
Danny.
Say again?
Danny.
Danny, go ahead.
Hey, Danny.
So I came to Christ through asking questions, through apologetics.
Yes.
And so I guess my main question is, we have the free will to look into anything, but God encourages us to ask questions.
Yes.
I came to Christ through asking questions, and one of Jesus's biggest things that he led people to God through was asking questions.
Yes.
So how are we supposed to ask questions and seek justice, but keep Christ as the center?
In what sense do you mean? Ask questions. Are you talking about conspiracy theories?
No.
No. What do you mean?
More like in any religion. Like if I'm researching the LDS religion from a Christian standpoint, how am I supposed to do that without being rude, but coming from a Christian standpoint and keeping Jesus as the center?
Well, you can always be kind, but Paul says test all things. And so you should test all things. But once you've established that Christianity is indeed true, that you have sufficient evidence that God exists, that Jesus rose from the dead, that the scriptures are telling the truth, once you've established that, then you can rest that that is true. After you've used reason to establish that the Bible's true, then you can rest in that. But that doesn't mean you know everything. Asking questions is a good thing. And actually, that's not true. When I was 17, I knew everything. But now I don't, all right? So it's good to ask questions. And in a certain sense, doubt is good. Why? In a certain sense. Because doubt, if you pursue the doubt to try and get answers, it will help you become more like Jesus and a stronger Christian. If you have no doubts at all, you're probably not thinking very much. Doubts can drive you to get answers and make you a better ambassador and enhance your capacity to enjoy God forever. Somebody who was always asking questions was Charlie Kirk. Always. And he wanted others to ask questions of him. In fact, that's something that Hunter told me yesterday. I don't know if Hunter's still here. You still here, Hunter? Hunter's in the back right there. Yeah, Hunter said that, he wanted to ask Charlie questions, and he appreciated that Charlie was open to questions. And isn't it ridiculous that people call Charlie Kirk a fascist? Isn't that? Because we all know that a typical fascist tactic is to give your opponent the microphone so he or she can make their case while you silently sit there and go, uh-huh.
Totally.
No, the guy that shot him is the fascist, ladies and gentlemen.
Amen.
Thank you, Danny. Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to build off of what Frank said. Shout out to Frank Turek. I do respect him. I would just say, hey, familiarize yourself with this young lady says she's a believer in Christ and she wants to be able to address other religious systems. I would say just familiarize yourself with the Bible to the point that you are able, when a position is given to you, to biblically think about that answer. So if somebody, for example, if somebody told you that, man, I'm addicted to watching inappropriate television and such of that nature, your mind should automatically run to scriptures that talk about that activity. So we're talking like Proverbs 5, 6, Proverbs 7, and such of that nature, Romans 1, that kind of stuff like that. It should just jump. You should familiarize yourself with the book so much that you're able to do that without even thinking. Like immediately you have a biblical response to it. When I see the No Kings rallies, I think about Psalm 2. Why are the nations rage and the people plot in vain? Right? Let us burst off his bonds that we might be free. And God looks at them and laughs at them in derision. He mocks them. So that would be my admonishment. Get into the book so much. You don't need to have the answer. You don't need to like study other faith systems. You just need to know your book that well. For example, why 600 years after Christ would God send another prophet? For what? That makes no sense. So therefore, I already know for a fact that Muhammad can't be a prophet because we didn't need him. We already had the greater Moses, the greater Jonah, the greater David has already come. So why would he send another prophet now? That makes no sense. So therefore, I mean, it makes it super easy once you have acclimated yourself so much to the scriptures that you're able to think in that regard. That would be my admonishment to her. That's what I tell my own children to do. What do you say? No Kings rallies are against the King of Kings. That's the fight that mankind will not win. Absolutely. Shout out to her. Absolutely. Biblical worldview. Thank you. Okay, let's see how Frank is unpacking this. Let's go.
So my name is Sarah.
Hey, Sarah.
And I 100% agree that, yes, the person who shot Charlie Kirk is a fascist. And I have to say thank you for your presentation. I actually was there the day that Charlie Kirk was shot. And I honestly, I have a statement and then a question. But my statement is I believe that probably one of the reasons why God allowed Charlie Kirk to be shot is to expose evil in ideologies, to expose that there is evil in worshiping this idea of being trans, to expose evil, in being on video games and being on Discord all the time. And anyways, my main question is, how do you know you have forgiven somebody? Because I'm finding it very hard to forgive this Tyler Robinson, because I just think he was evil. He is evil.
Let me give you my perspective. Tyler Robinson is made in the image of God. Therefore, I hope he repents, accepts Jesus, and then is executed. Because that's what he deserves if he's guilty. In fact, Jesus affirmed the death penalty. When Pilate said to him, "Don't you know I have the authority to kill you?" Jesus didn't say, "No, you don't." Jesus said, "You do, but you get that authority from above." The government is given the sword in order to execute punishment on the wrongdoer. This is Romans 13:4. But I understand the animosity that one might have to someone like Tyler Robinson. But bitterness only hurts you. It only hurts me. Bitterness is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. What Erica Kirk did at the memorial to stand up and say, "I forgive him," what she's saying is, if Jesus can forgive me, I can forgive Tyler.
Yeah. I like
Because
how-
I'm a sinner too.
And
And
I like what
holding
she
on to
did.
that bitterness isn't going to help. Now, she agrees, obviously, he needs to be punished. But there's no sense holding on to this. Now, can I also point out one other thing about this, ladies and gentlemen? Not always, but quite frequently, when something evil happens on the left, there's a riot. When something evil happens with regard to Islam, there are beheadings. When something evil happens with regard to Christianity, there's forgiveness. Erica Kirk demonstrated the love of Jesus, and yet people are running her down. Do you know why this is going on? Did I mention this before?
'Cause
Maybe
we're
I forgot
evil.
to mention this. That Jesus and the apostles call Satan a murderer, a liar, an accuser, and a slanderer who seeks to kill, steal, and destroy. We had a murder, and then what have we had since then? Lies, accusations, slander that are trying to destroy a widow, destroy the future of her children, destroy the organization that she now leads and was built by her husband. And you don't believe in the demonic? How could it be more obvious? So I would say follow in Erica's footsteps. Let the bitterness go. Pray for Tyler. Pray for look, if he's not guilty, I hope they find the guilty guy, right? But I'm 99.5% sure he is guilty. But he's innocent until proven guilty. There will be a trial. Let's wait for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.
Shout out to Sarah. I believe in the death penalty. And I believe in the death penalty probably a lot more than most people realize, because I do believe that those who are accused of R against women or men, they deserve the death penalty. Those who offend children, they deserve the death penalty. Yeah, we're not given that and again, this is an example of unrighteous people thinking they're being more merciful than God. And because we're wicked, because we're unrighteous in our proclivity, we think the best thing to do is put somebody in jail for 100 billion years and that'll fix the problem. No, it creates bigger problems. And we've watched it time and time and time and time again. Why don't we just start putting the heads to bed? Absolutely. So I do believe in the death penalty. I'm pro death penalty. We can go back to firing squad. I'm fine with that. So I think we've attempted, in our attempt to not do what God has told us to do, we have put ourselves in a position where we are absolutely in a trick bag. So that's it. Let me see. I did see another comment. Yeah, the death penalty is absolutely biblical. So I don't know why. The problem is we just think we're smarter than God. We think we're smarter than God. And therein is the problem. Okay, let's go.
I did want to end with, I do appreciate what Erica Kirk did. And also, if any of the rest of you were at that Charlie Kirk event, I would love to talk to you.
Okay, thank you. God bless you. Yes, sir.
Hey, Dr. Frank. My name's Riley. I just want to say,
hey, let me real quick. Hold on. I'm gonna cause a drop. I'm gonna start something real quick. Let me tell you something real quick. In the chat, how many times have you heard me talk about that sliver of land the size of New Jersey in the Middle East? Can somebody tell me how many times you've heard me mention that today? In the chat, can you tell me how many times you heard me mention it? I just want to make sure. I'm just looking real quick. If y'all could just put the number in. I'm sure it's a lot because I'm sure I've been talking about it all day. I've been talking about it all day. Once? I did talk about it once? 0. Okay, you haven't heard me say it at all. Okay, really? None? Not at all? Okay, so let me ask you this question then. To this person right here, why in the Lord's name are you using your free will to come over here and talk about dumb stuff that nobody's talking about? Machinist 77? How about you stay on task? Nobody's talking about that. You're talking about that. That's the problem. See, your brain is hardwired for that. And then you just try to impose it on everybody else because you yourself are wrecked with the fact that all you think about is that. Go tend to your own self. Nobody asked you for that. Nobody did. Nobody. Go kick rocks because nobody's talking about that. We over here talking about the Bible. We over here talking about how to bike takeovers. And this dingbat is over here talking about some doggone Israel. Dude, what's wrong with you, man? Go kick rocks. Please find the rocks and kick them all the way from here to Pluto. Have a great night. Thank you so much. What you say here? Thank you so much. Mandy says this with the 5 Australian. Years ago, if you were a criminal, they sent your ancestors to an open air prison. Oh, that's right. His name was Australia. Shout out. Shout out. This is my first time mentioning it. See, that's what I'm saying, man. That's when your heart is so inclined to just rave and rant about a particular topic. That's all you talk about. That's all you talk about. And that person right there, Machinist 77, may God bless him and give him some good common sense. Dude, get out of it, man. We over here talking about all this other good stuff. This dude talking about Israel. Like, that's how you know you missing it. You missing the whole plot. And don't y'all get me started again. Y'all let me go over here the other night. I sat there and roasted that person for 30 minutes and none of y'all stopped me. I'm like, none of y'all stopped your boy. And by the way, I did pull that video up. That thing is ridiculous. Y'all let me sit there and talk about that person for 30 minutes, 35 minutes and 18 seconds to be exact. Y'all let me do that. Why didn't y'all stop me? We needed adult supervision on aisle 8. Y'all, Machinist 77, please go kick rocks. Please. Find something else to do. Let's go. Y'all, that means y'all, I trust y'all to, don't let me do that again, y'all. What's this guy about to say? Let's go.
Evangelical and apologetic work you've done is really awesome.
Thank you.
My question is a little strange, but if Islam were true, would you become a Muslim?
No.
Sure, if it was true. Do you think it's true?
I do not think it's true. But my question off of that is, I honestly have thought about it for a while. And even if Islam was true, I would probably not become a Muslim.
Well,
and
the question is, what kind of Islam? Because there are different kinds of Islam, and I just happen to have an expert with me. Right here. Come on up here for a minute. Can I have that mic over there? This is Ridvan Adamir, ladies and gentlemen.
He a apostate
Muslims.
prophet in the building.
They're pretty docile. Right? But go ahead, continue with your question. If Ridvan has something.
You were doing quite well. I don't have to.
Okay, no, but I want you here anyway. Okay. You're my security blanket.
Yeah, no, prostate problem, awesome. But the main, do you think there's a problem with me saying no to that question is the main question?
Well, here's the problem. What people always ask me, if Islam is true, would you become a Muslim? In reality, given what I know about Islam, it doesn't comport with reality. So I don't think
it's almost like it cannot be true. Like there's actually, I understand the argument, and I think his question is fine. The problem is Islam can't be true because it has so many contradictions within itself. It's like a cup with 45 holes in it and no bottom. Is it a cup? What if it was really truly a cup? Well, it can't be a cup. Like, it doesn't matter. It can't be a cup. It's got so many contradictions already baked into its DNA that it can't actually be an answer. So I agree with him. I understand exactly what he's saying. And I got what he's trying to say, but it already has too many problems to start with. It's like, well, if a lie could be true, would you believe it? Well, if it wouldn't be a lie. And if for Islam to be true, it can't be Islam. That's just it. All right. The if is the problem. Like it is. Yeah, let's hear what apostate prophet. I like him, man. He's always been a friend of mine. I've liked him from when he was an atheist. I liked him when I've never not liked apostate prophet. Yeah, I've always liked him. He's just a fun guy.
It could be true. Okay. But if there's a strain of Islam that were true, that there is a God, his name is Allah, and he wants devotion, I could understand that. But there are things about Islam that I think are just demonstrably false.
And I agree.
Anything to add?
Yeah, I would say I myself, if I was asked the question, I would also say I'm an ex-Muslim. I left Islam. I grew up with it. Was an atheist for 10 years, then became a Christian quite recently. But if I was asked today if Islam was true, would you become a Muslim? I would say yes, definitely. But I know that it's false. I know that it's nonsense. I know that it's more than nonsense. I know that it's a bunch of nonsense that needs to be taken seriously. But especially for Christians to know, a very good opportunity actually is so Islam as a religion claims to be the fulfillment of the biblical religion of what the God of the Bible supposedly revealed. The Quran claims to be the completion of the message of that very same God. The Quran comes along, makes the claim that it's the same God, but while affirming the truth and the preservation and the authority of the Bible, of the Torah and the Gospels, goes on to completely refute it. And Frank Turek just here explained to us very, very well why Christianity is true and why the evidence for Jesus and his resurrection, his divinity, hold up very, very well. Muslims often go around claiming that they respect Jesus and they also believe in him. Muslims actually, while affirming that the early Christians were correct in their beliefs, also believe, because that's what the Quran says, that Jesus was never killed and therefore was never resurrected, which is a complete insult to Christianity and to Jesus himself. I think that's something that should be known, and the truth can be found with Christianity, as Frank demonstrated here.
Thank you, Ridwan.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you guys for all your work.
Appreciate it. Yes, ma'am. Don't go far. I may need you again. All right.
My name is Regina.
Hey, Regina.
I have a question. It's from my brother.
Yeah.
He texted it to me. He's watching online right now. He was hoping you could answer if you feel comfortable. He wanted me to ask if you think all LDS are believing a false doctrine and if you believe they will go to heaven if they continue to believe their theology.
Sorry about that. All right. LDS, Latter-day Saints. So do you believe if LDS, first of all, do you believe that they have a false theology? And do you believe that they would enter into heaven upon death? Okay. I'm going to say yes and no to that question. That'd be my short answer. Yes, no. There we go. Let's see what Frank says. And Frank is kind of to the point. He doesn't waste a lot of time with this. So let's go.
It depends on what their doctrine is, because I've been talking to my friend Aaron Marshall over here. Aaron, why don't you come on up here for a minute? You know how I said earlier that I even think some Baptists can be saved? It's not where you go to church that makes you a Christian. Some people in the Latter-day Saint Church may have the right belief about Jesus, but according to the official doctrine of the Mormon Church, excuse me? Okay. Yeah. So I haven't catched up with the branding yet. I'm sorry.
Yeah, see,
I'm sorry. I don't mean no offense. Okay. Okay, Aaron, go ahead.
Well, I mean, to be fair, we have lots of interaction with fundamentalist groups all around here. So when we talk about the rubric of Mormonism, obviously the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the biggest branch of that. But we would say that if I've trusted in Jesus, right, if I trusted in Jesus for my identity, then I will be with him forever. I will have eternal life. We see this in John's gospel. Believe in Jesus and you will have eternal life. And we would say lovingly, right? We want to have conversation.
Okay, then if that be the case, then I don't think they're Mormon then. Like, to me, and I'm gonna see what he says, but for me, if somebody's professing to be a Mormon and they truly believe and they're trusting in Christ and Christ alone for their salvation, they're not Mormon. That's kind of like a Muslim. Like, if they're really truly trusting in Christ and Christ alone, they're no longer a Muslim. This is the same thing that apostate prophet went through when in his conversion. Like, he was trusting, he realized that the story of Christ was real. So he was no longer like, I can't be an atheist because I trust the story. I trust who Jesus is. So they might profess that they're Mormon. If they truly are trusting in Christ and Christ alone, the real Christ, the right Christ, as somebody said right there, then they're not Mormon. They're not Jehovah's Witness. They're no longer in. Now they might still attend that false church, but God will save them out of it. But I don't think they will stay in it. Okay, that's all right.
That the LDS church would say, yes, general salvation for everybody by trusting by what Jesus accomplished on the cross. But in order to get eternal life or exaltation, the highest level celestial kingdom, that's when you have to produce. That's when you have to earn. And what we would say in the most loving way possible is that what Frank said is that Jesus loves us simply because he loves us, not because we've earned it. And so I have confidence that Charlie is with Jesus today because he trusted in Jesus alone, not because he was doing all these things in addition to that. And so that's what we would say the difference between what we believe. And, there's lots of others. We have different view of God, different view of man, different view of heaven, different view of hell, literally everything. But I would say that's the main thing that we want to get across in our conversations.
Yeah, I would also say if I understand LDS doctrine correctly, the LDS person or the LDS doctrine would say that we're not going to the highest level.
You're not the judge. Jesus is. Yeah, but you're not speaking up there.
Okay, sir.
Okay, I'm not 100% certain let me back up and find out what this argument is. But just to break it up a little bit, I think for whatever reason, there's an inside joke about different denominations. There's an inside joke about different denominations. And I think that's why Frank is doing that. I believe that Baptists are saved. I'm a Presbyterian. I believe that Baptists are saved. All right. I believe that Lutherans are saved. Right. Now, Frank is a non-denominational type of Christian, evangelical Christian, non-denominational, doesn't subscribe to any particular denominational hierarchy, and that's fine. So I think there's just a little bit of ribbing back and forth. I don't think there's anything wrong with Baptists at all. And I'm going to speak on behalf of Frank. I don't think he thinks anything's wrong with Baptists either. Just a little. I don't believe that he would really truly think something's wrong with Baptists. I can't believe that. So anyway, okay, now let's find out what they're fighting. Right, Baptists are saved because you're one of them. Absolutely. All right, let's go and let's keep it going.
We're not going to the highest level.
You're not the judge. Jesus is. Yeah, but you're not speaking up there.
Okay, sir.
I don't need your
Sir. Okay, sir. If you want to ask a question, fine. You can come up here. I don't think in history a Mormon has ever been thrown out of this. Okay, I mean, you guys are kind people. We're just having a conversation. Okay. The point here is that everybody believes what they believe, and that necessarily excludes its opposite. I don't think God is going to force anybody into heaven against their will. If you don't want Jesus now, the true Jesus, you're not going to want him in eternity. Everybody makes their own choices. I do know how people get to heaven because Jesus is the one that talked about heaven and said he was the way to heaven. So I'm going to tell everybody, I know this is the way you can get to heaven. If you don't want that way, that's up to you.
And we would say to heaven just is to be with God forever. So if I'm not with God forever, that's not heaven. And on Latter-day Saint belief, right, the only way I can be with Heavenly Father forever is to be in the highest level celestial. The only way to get there, we would say, is by doing works. So that'd be the main difference between what we believe. I mean, there's lots of others, but that'd be one of the main differences. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your question.
You
God bless you. Appreciate it.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Okay, that was all right. Let me let that breathe for a second. All right, that wasn't. I don't think that was bad at all. I think it's a joke. I think they're just being. Again, I think it's just ribbing, kind of like just picking. Like I always joke about Baptists. Baptists are going to have to be in heaven because they have really good potlucks. I mean, they be kicking it with the potlucks, right? Us Presbyterians, we do our best, but them Baptist folk, they're doing their work. So anyway, so that was it. I think it's just a joke, and I'm sure he's going to probably make it 2 or 3 more times. I didn't take any offense by it. I don't think anything. I think again, it's just some internal insider baseball ribbing back and forth. But now back to the point, though. Right. Mormons do believe in works. So it's not by grace alone that you've been saved. It's what is it? It's by grace alone up to, how do they say it? You work up to the point where you can't do any more, and then that's where grace kicks in, is a summation of it. So no, that's not what scripture teaches. So that's what I'm saying. Anybody who's saved out of the LDS is saved out of the LDS, not within the LDS, because their doctrine is different.
Hey, don't go far. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Good evening, Dr. Turek.
Yes, sir.
My name's Caleb, and first, thank you for
Caleb in
returning
the
to the
building.
campus.
Yes, sir.
We greatly appreciate that.
Thank you.
I recently have renewed deep study of Jesus and the faith.
Okay.
And the one question that I've been struggling with that I hope to be able to get some input on is a bit of a dilemma. When I consider God's act of creation, when he was picking the rules of the game that humanity would play by, God had infinite sets of rules to choose from. He had infinite board games for humanity to play.
Can I ask you what you mean by rules? Do you mean moral rules, or do you mean physical rule? What do you mean by rules?
All of it. Like if you imagine.
Well, no, if God is God, he doesn't have an infinite number of moral attributes. His moral attributes are what they are. And so he is not arbitrary. He doesn't decide, oh, today I like love, tomorrow I might like murder. He is the standard of love and goodness and righteousness. So he doesn't have an infinite number of ways he could set up morality.
Right.
He is the moral standard.
Certainly.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
No. With that, he could have arranged reality in different ways. What I don't see is why God couldn't tune the preconditions so that humanity could just be created right in heaven to be saved. Said another way, if God has aseity, creates ex nihilo, and has total authorship over reality, and selects the conditions that we arrive in, he could have picked a different game. The dilemma I see in creation that I'm struggling to understand is if we believe that in heaven we'll be free but won't choose evil, that kind of world is possible. With total power, God could arrange the preconditions, rearrange the laws of reality to be able to create humanity as truly loving and truly free from the start. Why didn't he?
Okay, because what might be logically possible might not be actually achievable with free creatures. Because what God can't do is force free creatures to do what he wants, because if he does, that's a contradiction. They're not free. So God creates a universe where the maximum number of people are saved and the minimum number of people are lost freely. I mean, could God create a universe where nobody sinned? Yeah, it's logically possible. It's just not actually achievable with free creatures. And the one other aspect to this, which is hard to communicate, I might not communicate it well.
That's fine. Yeah.
But redemption brings you to a higher level of relationship than innocence. What do I mean by that? Well, I'll just give a business example. If you own a business and a customer has a bad experience with your business, and you go above and beyond the call of duty to resolve that issue, that customer is more loyal to you than if nothing bad ever happened. Because the relationship has been strengthened because you saved that customer from a problem. The same thing is true when it comes to relationships. If you're in a relationships of innocence and then there's a falling out, if the person that you had a falling out with does something heroic to save you, that relationship is stronger because of the difficulty that was resolved than it was before there was any problem. So the descendants of Adam and Eve who go through that problem, sin, and then they're saved by Jesus, their relationship is stronger due to the redemptive and loving acts that Christ did for us than it would have been if we had never sinned.
Amen.
That's my answer.
Just the one follow on is that it's an illogical thing is basically what you're saying for God to tune those preconditions.
Well, it's not illogical. It's just against reality, because God, see, when we say God is all powerful, it doesn't mean God can do everything. It means God can do everything that's not logically impossible or against his nature. Like he can't create a square circle. He can't create a one-ended.
I wish he had stayed right there and said against his nature, because I think that's what the problem is. The young man is saying, like, God can't create a world where, I don't know, or again, where something that goes against his nature of who he is. So that's the problem I think he's getting. But this is a heady question.
He can't create a married bachelor. He can't create an honest politician. There's some things that are just too hard for God. Okay? So those are contradictions. So could God create a world where everyone was innocent? Logically, yes, but not achievable, because as soon as he gives freedom, then people are going to use it negatively at some point.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that was just a tough question. I don't know if the audience got a lot out of that one, in my opinion. But let's go.
Yes, sir. What's your name?
I'm Ethan.
Ethan, go ahead.
So I've been watching your content since like 4th grade.
Thank you. You're making me feel really old, Ethan.
So I'm trying to figure out like the exact words to say this. So Charlie Kirk did an event up here in, I believe, 2022. And me and my mom went there, and I got to ask him a question on how can we be courageous in whatever career field we're in. Because like for me, I'm not going into like apologetics or anything like that as like a career, but I want to glorify God in what I'm doing, and also stand up for the gospel. How do we do that responsibly without being arrogant and without being like mean? And then also, what's like the line that we draw between like staying silent and then also standing up for God's
What's the
truth?
last part of it? Where you draw a line between what?
Between like staying silent in some situations or like standing up for God's truth.
Well, Jesus said you have to be as wise as serpent and innocent as doves. You can't fight every battle. But if you're never speaking up, let me put it this way. If somebody doesn't hate you, you're doing something wrong. Okay? Why have there been so many attacks on TPUSA? Even before Charlie was murdered, because they're effective, because they're doing good things. If you're never being attacked, if no one ever wants to persecute you, probably people don't even know you're a Christian. You know, Jesus said, if they persecuted me, they're going to persecute you. Paul said, anyone who lives a faithful life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted. So if nobody's persecuting you, it might be that nobody really knows you're a Christian. You're not living it out. So you have to pick your spots. You can't be so obnoxious that you're not making any headway. You've got to be able to pick your spots. So it really depends on the situation. But it's a great question, because too many people today are silent, when if everyone realized, like Charlie did, that when you're a Christian 24/7, 365, 360, every area of your life ought to be affected by Jesus. If you're a Christian, what area of your life should not be affected by Jesus? Every area. When you go to church, you should be a Christian. When you go home, you ought to be a Christian. At work, you ought to be a Christian. Online, you ought to be a Christian. In the voting booth, you ought to be a Christian. You ought to be a Christian everywhere. And that's one of the things I loved about Charlie. In fact, I said to Charlie, I've been looking for you for 30 years. A Christian, an evangelical Christian who realized that you could make a difference in politics and the culture for Christ. Everybody else was too scared to speak up. He wasn't. He was bold. You know what he said about courage? He said, what I love about courage is it doesn't take any skill. It just takes a decision. All you've got to do is decide. And by the way, courage is not the absence of fear. You wouldn't need courage if you weren't afraid, right? Courage is, I'm going to do what's right. And Charlie said this as well. I'm going to do what's right even when I don't know the outcome. That's courage. So do what's right even when you don't know the outcome. Thanks, Ethan.
Thanks, Frank.
God bless you.
Okay. That was a good, I like that. You know, I like when, I do find it refreshing when young people come up and ask Charlie or Frank or the Q&A, like, how do I do this? How do I go about, you know, formulating a good relationship so I can build a happy, healthy, strong marriage, or things like that? Like, how can I be solid in my convictions in the marketplace? Those kind of questions. I do like those. I like the pushback questions and Mormonism over Islam and such of that nature. But those ones are always encouraging too. I like when they intersperse those. Okay, let's go.
Yes, sir. What's your name?
I'm Jake.
Jake, go ahead.
So my question today, it's revolving around the topic of lust, the sin of lust.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, it's something that affects so many people around the world, a lot of Christians, both male and female. And as a college student, I attend Utah State University Eastern down in Price, and just as a 20-year-old male, and you're 64, I believe you said you're turning 65. I just want to know.
Not yet, man. I'm not that old.
Sorry.
Dang, he put the man's age on blast. How you put that man's age on blast like that? Okay, I'm just looking through the room. Okay, I just want to get an idea who's in the room.
But I just want to ask you for any advice to get through it, any experiences, any strategies that were able to just help you push through lust and flee from it.
Yeah, that is a great question, and it's a question too often not asked. First of all, this is probably your biggest problem, right? If this is a problem, get a flip phone, be a geek.
Get a dumb
If
phone.
pornography is coming over this thing and it's causing you, then get away from it. If you're an alcoholic, you shouldn't be living over a bar, should you? So you're going to have to make hard decisions beforehand when it comes to lust. And my wife was so good at this with our boys. We had 3 boys. She would always say, you need to make a decision before you're put in a situation, which is true. You need to decide now before you're tempted that you're not going to go on the computer, or you're going to put on a software program that prevents you from going places, or you're going to call your friend, an accountability partner, because once a week you're going to get together and you're going to be able to ask each one of you the question, have you looked at anything pornographic this week? Because pornography is destroying minds. It's destroying relationships. Since you brought up the question, I'm going to talk about it. I know there's some young people in here, but you guys ever noticed that over the past maybe 15 years, every other commercial is about erectile dysfunction? Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Because men are consuming so much pornography that they can't perform in a normal relationship. You want to destroy yourself? Get addicted to pornography.
Okay, I'm gonna have to disagree with Frank on that. It's not just that; it could be health issues as well. I mean, we're not as healthy as we were in the 90s. However old Frank is, however old I am, our equivalent in the 90s, our equivalent in the 80s, are exponentially more healthy than we are. That's just a reality. Sure. We could say that they're looking at the spicy content. Absolutely, that could be part of it, but more than likely, it's the fact that we're just not as healthy as we used to be. I mean, we just don't have the blood circulation. We just don't have the movement of our bodies like we used to. That's just the reality. I mean, I understand what he's saying, but I just think there's more ways that we can skin this cat than just that.
Get addicted to anything. Do you know what addiction is, really? It's slow suicide by pleasure. That's what it is. So practical steps: get an accountability partner, get a flip phone, or put some sort of filter on this where you don't know the password. Same thing is true on your computer. You probably got to get rid of Netflix, maybe even Amazon Prime. You notice you can't even watch a show now without pornography, without profanity. We just got to get radical, because you are more important than anything that you're tempted to consume. You're made in the image of God. And Charlie was big on saying, men, you think it's attractive to women that you're looking at pornography? You think it's attractive to women that, sorry, I'm going to just tell you what he said, you're overweight? You think it's attractive
Pause
to
out,
women that
pause
you're
out.
playing video games till 3 a.m.? You think it's attractive to women that you don't have any real direction in your life? You're still living in your parents' basement? You think that's attractive? It's not. Women, is that attractive? No. And by the way, what else isn't attractive is going really fast in your car. Like spinning your wheels. Whenever my wife and I are out and we hear some guy spinning his wheels, I go, "You're really turned on, aren't you?" She goes, oh, that guy. Woo! Honey, help me. It's time for men to grow up, and Charlie was all about men growing up. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
Okay. All right. I'm going to I guess I'm going to answer the question. I would tell him the same things that Frank Turek said, but by removing something out of your life, you have to fill it with something else. Otherwise, you have to fill it up with something counter to it. So if this young man, let's say that he was looking at spicy content, then he needs to fill his mind, fill his time in his day with things that are not spicy content. And I would say memorize Proverbs 6, 7, and 8. Like literally memorize them so that you can quote them without ever thinking about it. The fleeing from immorality, the son that is foolish, and the fleeing from the adulteress. If you just memorize those. Get rid of Netflix and get rid of all your other subscription streaming services until you've memorized that to the point that it invades your mind whenever you look at something. Whenever you think about something, this jumps into your mind. Then you can bring back your streaming services if you think you need them. But I think like fill in your mind with something. So fill it in. Yeah, let's keep this going. Shout out for sure. All right, let's go.
Yes, sir. What's your name?
Hey, I'm Ray. Frank,
Hey,
God
Ray.
bless you, brother. Thank you for coming out.
God bless you, man.
You're
Thank
back.
you.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
On the topic of lust, real quick, before my
Yeah.
question, if I may, the Lord tells me if something is a stumbling block to me, to remove it, whether it's my eye or my arm, and I could spend my life cutting away my phone and social media and Google and whatever the heck it is.
Right.
And at the end of it all, what you're left with is just this wicked human heart. And every single one of us just needs the Lord to go in there and just scoop out all the darkness that our eyes have consumed and just clean it out. And this is part of preparing our hearts for the Lord. So anyway, I just wanted to share that to encourage the tall gentleman that asked the question ahead of me.
Yes.
The question I have for you now, a friend of mine blew my mind with this, and I just wanted to present this to you. He said, before Jesus came, there was a man roughly 31 years of age who disagreed with somebody in the political arena and was poured out at the neck as a result. And he spent his life outside, maybe in the wilderness, and he taught people and reasoned with them to repent or have a turning point in their lives. And the Lord Jesus said, if you will accept it, he is the Elijah who is to come. And when you go to the last chapter of Malachi, God says, before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes, I will send you Elijah the prophet, and he will turn the hearts of kids to their parents, maybe college-aged kids. So my friend said, who am I talking about? I said, obviously, John the Baptist from the scriptures. And he said, yes, before the great and awesome day of the Lord. Yet, I'm also talking about Charlie Kirk. And so my question to you is, has anybody ever shared this with you, this connection, John the Baptist, Charlie Kirk? And what are your thoughts?
No, because I don't think we can take the scriptures that are clearly talking about an individual 2,000 years ago and say, he also meant to talk about Charlie Kirk. That's not the way I think the scriptures ought to be interpreted. There may be parallels, of course. There are parallels, hopefully, in our lives to the heroes of the Bible, particularly Jesus. But to say that that's what Malachi meant when he wrote, 2,400 years ago, that he had Charlie Kirk in mind. No, that's not the way the passages work. All right.
Yeah, that was a reach. That was a reach. I didn't get what he was even trying to say, but yeah, that was a reach. I'm just gonna leave it like that. That was he was reaching out there for that one.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you, man. God bless.
God bless.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hi, Frank. Thanks for coming out. My name is Rich.
Rich, go ahead, sir.
So
Nice
earlier,
beard.
somebody said we shouldn't say the name Yahweh, so might be in trouble. I got it tattooed on me.
Oh,
but-
okay, good. Just hold your arm out then. Yeah.
but-
there you go.
Well, earlier today, I was having a conversation with somebody very short and they had to leave, so I didn't have a chance to respond, but I just wanted to drop their comment to you and see how you would respond.
Asking for a friend.
Yep. So something they said was the existence of morality doesn't prove God, and that man just evolved into a society that has law and order, that has good and morality that we see today, so that we can, as creatures, get along with each other and live. So how would you respond to that?
I would.
Whew, okay. So man evolved with morals. They didn't need God to give morals. Okay. All right. Let's see what Frank says.
Ask them for evidence. And secondly, if it's an evolved sort of feeling that you have or thought that you have, then it's not objective. It's just a sentiment that you have. And that's not an objective moral value. First of all, I don't think macroevolution is true, but even if it was, a mutating genetic code does not have the authority to tell you what to do. If there is no God, there's no difference morally to kill somebody than to love somebody, because there's no objective meaning or purpose to life, and there is no objective standard of goodness. And when he says, well, we have to do this to cooperate, first of all, that's a moral standard, cooperation. Why is that right? You know, Stalin didn't have to cooperate. Most of the people that got in his way, he murdered. He had a small group of henchmen and they went out and murdered everybody else. And then he died comfortably on his bed at 74 years old, shaking his fist at God one last time. So cooperation isn't always necessary to get what you want. In fact, most of the time you can get away with stuff by not cooperating. Why is that wrong if there is no God? And by the way, in the book Stealing from God, we have like 8 reasons why the evolutionary argument doesn't work. I just mentioned one of them. Oh, by the way, here's another one. Evolution is a process of change.
Right.
If at some point evolution causes us to think that rape is okay, would it be okay then? And if it's all about survival of the fittest, why shouldn't we rape in order to propagate our genes and survive? The evolutionists can't answer that. Because if it is about survival of the fittest, then do whatever you can to survive, including rape, including murder. So it doesn't work.
Thanks, Frank.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Rich.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. What's your name?
That's good.
Hannah.
Hey, Hannah, go ahead.
What's up, Hannah?
I'm in not one but 2 apologetic classes, and I
Wow.
wanted to ask something that they've never really touched on. Was, in your opinion, what is the biggest plot hole in Mormon ideology?
Plot hole.
And how do you come to it respectfully, but very, like, hey.
Okay, as Matthew was.
I'm going to say this again. Knowing the book yourself, familiarizing yourself. You can familiarize yourself with some Mormon ideas and kind of know, like, they believe that Jesus is the spirit brother of Lucifer, and that as God is, so can man become. And so and God was as man is, and that kind of stuff like that. And just kind of have like a working knowledge of it. But I think knowing, like, okay, I know for a fact that Jesus is not on par with Satan. Like, that's insane. And that man does not become God like God is. That doesn't make sense. And you can answer that from the book itself. And the scriptures that teach what it is exactly. So when you come up with that, when you're confronted with that, you'll be able to give a biblical answer and not just something that you think about. Okay, let's see what he says.
Saying earlier, are we going to follow the truth or not? Here's a question I often ask people. If Christianity were true, historic, biblical Christianity, just the Bible, would you become a Christian? I always ask that question. And a lot of times people will be honest and say no. At that point, it doesn't matter how much evidence I give. It's not a head problem, it's a heart problem, right? Now, the same question could be asked in reverse. If Joseph Smith really was a prophet, the Book of Mormon's true, Doctrine and Covenants, Pearl of Great Price, if all that is true, that would presuppose that at least some of the Bible is false. Okay? If I've established already, well, first of all, let me say, as Matthew said, that if Mormonism's true, sure, I'd be a Mormon. Okay. But if Orthodox historic biblical Christianity is true, if I have evidence that historic biblical Christianity is true, then by definition, just logically, anything that disagrees with that has to be false, if it's true. And the same is true. If Mormonism is true, anywhere it disagrees with, or anywhere the Bible disagrees, that has to be false. It's just logic, right? So what we're going to do, what I want to do is follow the evidence where it leads. And in the evidence that I've seen, I think biblical historic Christianity is true. And Paul says in Galatians 1, if an angel even comes to you and says, I have a new gospel, don't believe him. Another gospel, a gospel that isn't grace through faith, not of works. So if I think that's true, I'm not going to think that Joseph Smith on that point was correct. And I'm happy to be corrected. If somebody in here can make a case for Mormonism, then I'm happy to read about it. Okay? But as far as I've seen, the evidence I've seen, historic biblical Christianity is true. And if you look at the archaeologists, even many Mormon archaeologists will say there's no archaeological evidence for what it said. The Book of Abraham, that document was not what Joseph Smith said it was. Even Mormon archaeologists and people that know Egyptian hieroglyphics say, no, that's from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. It's 800 years after Abraham. So there's too many holes there for me. But I love Mormons. And I think one of the ways you love people is you tell them the truth. In fact, Thomas Sowell, who is now 95 years old, I don't even know if he's a Christian, but he says almost everything well. He says, when you want to help people, you tell them the truth. When you want to help yourself, you tell them what they want to hear. And too often we tell people what they want to hear rather than what they need to hear. Thank you, Hannah. God bless you.
Okay. All right, Chrissy, you messed me up now because I'm really interested in what this woman's going to say. Okay, I'm going to speed it up. How about that? Because I do kind of want to hear what she says. You can't do that to me. You cannot tell me. Because now I want to know what she's going to say. I'm going to speed it up, though. I promise. But I just want to hear it. I just want to hear it. Is that okay? Can I do that? Okay, let's go.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. What's your name?
Hi, Frank. Michaeline. Michaeline.
Michaeline? Go ahead. Yes.
So I'm a bit nervous here. You know, the best witnesses of Christ raising from the dead were the people that were there.
Yes.
I was there. A lot of us were there. I think we're the greatest witnesses.
Of Charlie's murder, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
At Charlie's assassination.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I only have one, like the Gospels. I'm just one person. But when it started, it was very difficult to hear because
I could hardly hear him. I was 25 feet from him. Of course, the speaker wasn't near me.
Well,
it was pointing out, but I agree. Yeah.
For us, I was kind of right in the middle, only to the side of Charlie. But there was a group to your left, to my right, over there that, from my standpoint, looked like a group of.
Hey,
Yeah.
Since there's,
I don't know what she was saying. You're right. You're right.
it's kind of an amphitheater and there's echoes. You know, that might have confused people too. But yes, sir. Go ahead. Cole, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
I first thought it was interesting that you said that for 30 years you were looking for Charlie, because I actually heard online that he was a time traveler, and it's maybe he.
Boy, you out of control.
That actually gets into my question.
But I heard about that in a dream.
Right.
Oh no.
So my question is, for many of us that probably have small social media platforms, or even we can only influence our family and friends, and a lot of us are getting impacted by what I would say are the insane theories, conspiracy theories from people like Scamdus Owens and Shake Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
What would you say would be our best way to maybe stand up or combat those theories, maybe along the lines of waiting for the trial, or just something to do, maybe to talk with our families or something like that?
Well, I would say...
he called her Scamdus.
Let me put it this way. People will say, have you watched everything that Candace Owens has done? My answer is no, but I don't need to watch every WWE match to know it's fake.
Hey, wait, hold on. Wait, what are you talking about?
When you're resorting to time travel and dreams and just speculation, you're throwing stuff up against the wall, that is not an investigation. That's slanderous. And so I think if you could just talk to people. Now, some people can't be talked to. Some people are just brainwashed in this kind of thing, and they think, oh, whatever their person says is gospel. That's not the way what we're supposed to do even as Christians. Test all things. By the way, it's a genetic fallacy to say just because somebody says something, it's wrong. Candace Owens probably says a lot of true things, but her overall sort of insinuation that somehow Erica and TPUSA is involved is what we would call a male cow's excrement.
All right. Thank you. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna again, just building off of what Frank said. Shout out to Frank. Shout out to Frank. I would say I would encourage people. I know this sounds like formulaic. Familiarize yourself with scriptures about gossiping and slander, seeking the truth. If you see something like, for example, let's pick Baron Coleman. A lot of people, Baron Coleman been catching a lot of heat lately because he's one of Candace Owens' simps, right? What he does, what he says, find scripture that combats that foolishness. Because when you run into people who espouse that teaching or those ideas, and you can give them a biblical response, you're doing them a huge favor, because it's not just my machinations, it's not just my thoughts. I'm telling you, but this is what the scriptures teach. Because what you'll notice is, and by the way, I've noticed this about the Cantifa cult, they can't give you a biblical response for why they do what they do. Has anybody ever found one of the Candace people actually give a biblical answer for what they're doing? Whereas people on this side all the time, now maybe they're using them inappropriately, or maybe they're just kind of broad brushing, care for widows, but they at least have a biblical response. They don't have a biblical response on that side. One, because they actually don't really care about truth. They don't care about the God of Scripture, the God that Charlie Kirk claimed to serve and love. They don't care about that. They just want to see things destroyed. So my answer to that young man right there would be, hey, why not, when you see something, for example, somebody's lying, okay, one of these platforms, they're lying, why don't you familiarize yourself with scripture about why we don't lie and the importance of truth? And how can you be somebody who professes to have Christ, who says he is the truth, and you're lying like that? Wholesale lying, intentionally lying. Like, that would be my answer to that young man like that. Okay, but let's keep going. Shout out to the best live chat on the internet. Okay, put myself down in the corner. All right, let's go.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Well, I'm Nathan. I'm a Latter-day Saint, and I know you kind of said that you want to, if someone has kind of any, I guess, claim for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you'd want to hear it.
Yes, sir.
I want to ask, kind of going back, you said, right, to the witnesses of the resurrection.
Yeah.
Right, that they're credible, right? They didn't get things like sex or money or power from them, right? There was really kind of no benefit from them if they were to make it up. What would be your response to the witnesses that we have for the Book of Mormon? Because it's kind of a similar situation, right? They didn't gain any power. They didn't gain money from their witnesses of the Book of Mormon.
What did they witness?
They witnessed that you have 19 witnesses that Joseph Smith had the gold plates.
Let me stop. What are gold plates miraculous?
In the way that Joseph Smith received them, yes.
But how do they
no.
know that he received them in a miraculous way?
We have 4 witnesses, including Joseph Smith, that say that they did see an angel give them the plates. We also have witnesses concerning the translation methods.
All right. Let's suppose that's true. Are all angels? I'm just asking the question. Are all angels from the good side?
No.
Okay.
But it goes kind of to a similar thing, right? Like, how, right? What would they have to gain from, right, a liar? Like, what evidence would you?
Well, let me ask you. Tell me what's true about Joseph Smith.
Okay.
Did he have more than one wife?
Yes.
Got sex. Money?
No, he didn't really.
Did he have his own
financially
bank?
benefit? He did.
Okay.
Yeah. And it ended
Power?
Up, it ended up failing. The bank.
Did he
that
have power?
made. Not necessarily over the church in general. Yes.
Okay.
But really in his life, it didn't amount to. Right, the kind of power the power he gained would be similar to the power that like Paul or Peter gained.
They got
in
martyred.
The New Testament church.
They got martyred. They didn't have power.
Joseph Smith also got martyred.
Martyred. What was the situation surrounding his death?
He was killed right in jail.
Why was he in jail?
He was in jail. There's a couple different allegations. A large one was kind of like the destruction of a printing press.
So he
there's
burned down
different
a printing
things.
press.
Correct.
Should he have been in jail?
If
you burn down a printing press, should you go to jail?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. So what happened when he was killed? Was it some noble sort of cause he had, or was he guilty of burning down a printing press?
He was guilty of burning down a printing press. Which
Okay, so let me real quick. I think this is what I'm talking about. Frank Turek has enough cursory knowledge about Mormonism to be able to ask some really good questions. And I think that's good to be able to ask those questions and when you're having that dialogue. But I do think, as I said before, familiarizing yourself with the book and understanding what the Bible actually teaches is paramount. But again, Frank has a great working knowledge, and you probably have working knowledge of a particular topic, and you're working with somebody who's an atheist in his field, and you can ask them questions. So I think this is great. He's just asking questions. And I think I like the fact that he's giving a guy time to kind of process it, because you can see that this gentleman is having a hard time with this one.
under like the Nauvoo legislature, the way in which it was legal. Now, am I saying that it was completely the right move to make? No.
He got into a gunfight.
Yes, he did have a gun to defend
Okay,
himself.
so was Jesus in a gunfight?
No.
Was Jesus pulling swords on people?
No.
Jesus went to the cross like a lamb to the slaughter.
Mm-hmm.
That's a martyr. Charlie's a martyr. Charlie was wanting to hear what Hunter wanted to ask him, and Hunter didn't agree with Charlie. He said people could come to the front of the line who don't agree with me. You're not a martyr if you're in prison for burning down a printing press, and then they smuggle guns into that jail and you try and blast your way out. But let me ask you this, Nathan. I appreciate you bringing this up, and it's difficult. We all have deeply felt beliefs, and they're hard to just say, oh, I'm going to give this up. But when you look at Jesus of Nazareth, he didn't just claim to be God or claim to be the Messiah. He proved it. Not just by rising from the dead, but if you notice, we have 4 problems in this world. Sin hurts us. Sickness hurts us. Natural laws, natural disasters hurt us. And our ultimate problem is death. Do you notice that when Jesus does miracles, he does miracles in those 4 areas? He's sinless. He can heal the sick. He can calm the storm. And he can raise the dead.
Yep.
Joseph Smith could do none of that. Moses could do none of that. Muhammad could do none of that. Confucius could do none of that. Buddha could do none of that. Jesus is the Messiah. And Jesus said to his disciples, I will lead you into all truth. And that's the truth that they wrote down in what we call the New Testament. And so I think the evidence is very strong that biblical historical Christianity is true. And if it really is true, would you become that kind of Christian?
Yes.
Thank you. If I gave you a book, would you read it?
Yeah, totally.
Boom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, go rock with that.
Hey. Yes, sir. By the way, I'm sorry, but in about 7 minutes, we've got to pack up. I could stay here all day, but we've got to pack up. And we want to interview some of you outside this room once we pack up. If anybody wants to be interviewed, we just want to get your sense of the event. We want to get what you've been experiencing since Charlie, how your life has changed since Charlie, what you've heard, what's happened. If you don't mind, it'll be right outside that door. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hi, first of all, I want to say that it was a good presentation. I agreed with most of what you said. I forgot
Oh,
to,
here comes
to
Jewish.
introduce myself. My name is Snir, S-N-I-R.
Hey, Sneer.
But there is one little big hang up that I have
Okay, go
with
ahead.
your argument, which is Jesus. You know what? Great, he existed. You know what? Great, he did miracles. You know what? Great, he even rose from the dead.
Mhm.
Why should that matter for me? Doesn't Deuteronomy tell me that miracles don't prove anything? If Jesus comes and says, I will give you a sign, the sign of Jonah, who was in 3 days in the belly of the whale and then came out, and then he dies and he comes back up and it happens. Doesn't Deuteronomy tell us that if a false prophet comes and tells you a sign and then that sign happens, don't believe him?
I don't know what you're talking about in Deuteronomy, but
I'll pull it up. I have it right here. Deuteronomy chapter 13, verses 1 through 5. Everything that I command that you shall be careful about, everything I command you that you shall be careful to do it. You shall neither add to it nor subtract to it. The law, don't add or subtract. If there will arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of a dream, and he gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder of which he spoke to you happens, and he says, let us go after other gods which you have not known, and let us worship them.
Okay, this is okay. I'm gonna let him tease it out. I disagree with what he's trying to say, but that's beyond the point. Somebody said that Jay, again, a friend of the channel, great supporter of the channel and great content creator, was having a little bit of back and forth with Project Constipation. So what I did was down in the chat, I just dropped the link to Jay's channel, and in the chat, in the comment section, if you do like Control F and just type in Project Constipation, you'll see it. And it's a dumb comment, but y'all go over there and support Jay. Let Jay know that we appreciate him. Leave him some green hearts, all that kind of good jazz. So I did leave the link in the chat right here so y'all can check it out. Okay, let's let this guy finish up. Let's go.
You shall not heed the words of that prophet or that dreamer of a dream, for the Lord your God is testing you to know whether you really love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. You shall follow the Lord your God, fear him, keep his commandments, heed his voice, worship him, and cleave to him.
okay, yeah, sure. If there are signs that point to other gods, don't follow them.
Other gods,
because
right.
even Satan can do signs that could even deceive the elect.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, you're supposed to.
The other
test
side can
the
also be signs.
Okay, but Jesus fulfilled the law.
What
He
does
didn't
that mean to
abolish
fulfill the law?
That he lived it perfectly.
If
and
a person,
you can't live it perfectly, and neither can I.
we have a tradition that Benjamin, the brother of Joseph, never sinned. Likewise, Jesse, the father of David, never sinned. We have that tradition.
Well, hold on.
Whoa. He said, we have a tradition. I have a tradition that I make the best beef brisket in the world. And that's my tradition on my deck. See, I can make my own tradition too. It doesn't stand up to scrutiny though. It's just me making up my own tradition. This is wild work. Let me back that up a little bit. That's a little smidgen here. He said, we have a tradition that Joseph never sinned.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, you're supposed to.
The other
test
side
the
can also be signs.
Okay, but Jesus fulfilled the law.
What
He
does
didn't
that mean to
abolish
fulfill the law?
That he lived it perfectly.
If
and
a person,
you can't live it perfectly, and neither can I.
we have a tradition that Benjamin, the brother of Joseph, never sinned. Likewise, Jesse, the father of David, never.
Wait. There's a problem then. If they never sinned, how did they die? The outcropping, the final boss of our sinful nature is the fact that we die. If Benjamin never sinned, if Jesse never sinned, where are they? Are they still traipsing around here? Better than 3,000, 4,000 years old? Because otherwise, they died.
Never sinned. We have that tradition.
Well, hold on.
We have a tradition. It's
Do you
crazy.
know where Paul gets the language when he writes the book? Have you read the book of Romans?
Not in its entirety.
Okay. Please read the book of Romans. Okay. Do you know where
Please
he
read
gets?
Deuteronomy.
Do you know where he gets the phraseology that there is no one good, not even one?
Not even one.
It's in Psalms, I believe.
Yeah, he gets it from the Old Testament.
Right.
Okay, we're all fallen. There's been nobody. You've got tradition. I've got the scriptures.
So let us ask a question. When Moses got the law, did he also receive a tradition?
Well, it depends on what you mean by tradition.
Right.
What do you mean by it?
Moses comes down the mountain and he tells the people of Israel, you shall make fringes on the corners of your garments. Here I will show you how to do the fringes. Later he goes and writes it down in the Torah. The people, they say, wait, how did he show us? Let's see what the Torah says. It says you shall make fringes. Does it say how we make fringes? Of course it doesn't. It gives us the overview, the summary, the hypnosis. In terms of how to actually fulfill what God wants from us, we also have the law that was passed down orally.
Okay, so why did Jesus say to the Pharisees, you nullify the word of God on account of your tradition?
When Jesus talks about Pharisees, you have to be specific. Who is he actually talking about? Because 80% of the population at the time were Pharisees. He could be either talking about the average person.
Is it possible?
Or
is it possible to actually disobey God through tradition?
If it is a faulty tradition.
Yes,
but if the
thank you.
tradition is verified by the court.
But there are traditions, and Jesus talked about them, like the one about not giving service to your parents. Violates the commandment, honor your mother and your father. Like, no, there are tons of them, and they're traditions of men. I think this is very interesting. This is an interesting exchange. I'm glad I got this one.
And the court says that this is a valid tradition, then the tradition is true. How do we know this? Because in Deuteronomy chapter 17, verses 8 through 11, it says, if a matter eludes you in judgment, between blood and blood, between judgment and judgment, or between legion and legion, words of dispute in your cities, then you shall rise up and go to the place the Lord your God chooses. And you shall come to the Levitic priests and to the judge who will be in those days, and you shall inquire, and they will tell you the words of judgment. And you shall do according to the word they tell you. From the place the Lord will choose, you shall observe to you shall observe to do according to all they instruct you, according to the law that they instruct you to do, according to the judgment you say to you, you shall do, you shall not divert from the word.
All right, yeah, obviously you got to set up some sort of court system when there's going to be disputes between people. We get that. But do judges sometimes get it wrong?
Whatever they tell you, don't go right or left. The great Supreme Court.
Yep, but sometimes they get it wrong, correct?
Even if they get it wrong,
so
don't.
In
go
other
right
words,
or left
men are not the standard. God is the standard as expressed through the scriptures. Look, we're out of time. I'd love to talk to you more. If I gave you a book, would you read it?
Oh yeah.
Boom!
I'm partway through the book that Ratio Christie gave. Where's Zach?
All right. Thank
Where's
you for
Zach?
coming. Thank you for coming.
I don't know about that one. That was an interesting one.
And by the way, let me say one thing. You see this gentleman here? Okay, you see him here? Okay, I don't want any of you out there ever having an opinion on the Israeli-Hamas conflict until you've read the Hamas charter. Okay, because Hamas has written that this gentleman and even non-Muslims like everyone in this room should be executed. And yet somehow there's a confusion in America about who is doing right and wrong in this dispute. Does that mean Israel does everything right? No. But don't give me the nonsense that Israel is the one committing genocide when in the very documents of Hamas, that's what they say they want to do, and they're doing it. Thank you for being here. God bless you. All right, sorry, this is the last question. Last question, I'm sorry.
Okay.
We'll hang around here at the book table a little bit longer, but we've got to be out of this room by 10, so we've got to break down. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Inside baseball question, I
Yes.
suppose. I'm Coleman Wang, by the way. What duty do you think a Christian has to make their country and their surrounding community explicitly and legally Christian?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. Okay. That's very interesting. Let's see what he says.
The question is, are you suggesting that Christianity has to be prescribed on people or just described?
Described as in evangelized and prescribed as in legislated? Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, well, what I'm trying to figure out is some people will say we were a Christian nation, and we were descriptively, but we didn't require people to be Christians to be citizens. Although much of our Constitution came from, in fact, the most quoted book for the entire founding fathers was Deuteronomy. They kept quoting Deuteronomy because Deuteronomy is a book of law, okay? So the Bible certainly influenced our Constitution and our nation, but we did not prescribe that you had to be a Christian to live here, okay? So it was descriptive, and there were laws that are consistent with the Bible that were prescribed, but you still had freedom of religion. So with that preamble, where's your question going?
So then in that case, it would be prescriptive. What duty, if any, would you say the Christian has to make Christianity and Christian law prescriptive?
We prescribe the natural law consistent with Christianity. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not murder, right? Thou shalt not rape, these laws, okay?
What about blasphemy?
They are consistent with Christianity. A blasphemy law, you know, the states had blasphemy laws. The
I am
federal
aware.
government did not. If a state wants to do that, it's constitutional.
Okay.
They can do that according to the Constitution. Now, the question is it wise to do that? That's another question you can debate. But it was, in fact, 5 of the 13 initial state church or states had their own state churches when the First Amendment was ratified in 1791.
Okay.
It wasn't until Massachusetts in 1833, I think, got rid of their state church. They didn't want to have a federal church, but states could have their own churches. Now, let me just draw a quick contrast here between, say, Christianity and Islam. We believe in America that you can impose laws consistent with Christianity from the natural law. If you couldn't do that, you couldn't have laws against murder, theft, rape, right? They're all in the Bible, okay? Sharia law is different. Sharia law wants to impose religious practices on the populace, like women have to wear certain clothing. Women can only go out with men. Homosexuals all need to be executed. You can't be a Christian. If you become a Christian, you can be executed. These are all laws that come from a religion, not the natural law. That would be a violation of the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. Islam and Sharia law is not consistent with the United States Constitution. Do Muslims have freedom of religion? Yes, until they use their freedom of religion to take the freedom of religion away from everybody else. The First Amendment is not a self-defeating amendment. It doesn't give one religion the right to take religious freedom away from everybody else. And until Europe and America realize that, we're going to have trouble.
All right, well, thank you. Frank.
All right.
All right, that wasn't bad. I can rock with that. Shout out to Frank.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming out. I didn't know how this would go because it's quite emotional being here, but I want to thank you and thank the people watching out there.
That was good. Oh, that was the end of it. Oh, well, there you go. That was the end of it. Shout out to Frank Turek. I appreciate that, man. All right, that was good. Thank you to whomever. I think Ben and a couple other people who sent that to me. So shout out to y'all. That was good. That was excellent. Now, because that was so good, and I do want to say thank you to Greg. No question, no comment. Just pure love of the game, supporting the channel. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you. And I also want to say shout out to Nick on golf. He's a brand new member, and he's out there playing golf. And that's something I don't know. I'm not that excited about. But I'm going to have to learn. I'm eventually going to probably end up having to learn about golf, but it's not. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. But shout out to Nick. Nick is going to probably try to convert me. There we go. Frank has been doing this thing for a long time. Absolutely. I think he did a great job with the natural law. There were some questions I'm like, ugh. But no, I thought he did a great job with that one. Shout out to you. Thank you so much. By the way, I did drop that link in there, right? I did put that in there, right? I did. Okay. When y'all get an opportunity, grab this link, open up in another tab, go over there and support Jay from Storybox. Make sure you leave him some green hearts. Let him know I sent y'all over there because Jay got to come back over here. We got to have him back on the show. I need to get that. I need to make that happen. I'm going to send him a message right now. Like, bro, what are we doing? What are we doing? Why have we not made this happen, Captain? All right. Here's something fun. I have no idea what happened. So apparently, Mr. Gary over there at Paramount Tactical, I don't know, something got in Gary's bonnet. He got a bee in his bonnet and he's upset. So he's calling out Mr. Baron Coleman. And I saw this video, so I'm just gonna pull it in. I haven't seen it, so we're gonna all watch it together. So let me pull it in. Let's see what y'all think about it. It just looks hilarious. So let's go.
All right, kids. So today's episode is about the one lawyer that makes all lawyers look bad. And you know exactly who I'm talking about. Candace Owens' #1 simp, and that is Baron Whisper Campaign Coleman. Now, Baron would probably describe himself as a disinterested party, but I got to tell you, he's made himself Candace Owens' personal Baghdad Bob, just out there spreading propaganda left and right, lying, and he's made himself Candace Owens' personal attack dog. He goes after any and everyone that just points out the truth, the fact that Candace Owens has zero evidence of a single material claim. But being her lapdog, he's going to go after anyone and everyone that's just reporting the truth. Now, I've done a lot of research with Baron, and most of you know that he's a lawyer, and he's currently registered with both the Florida and the Tennessee bar. And I have checked, and I got to tell you, all the defamatory claims that he has made against, and accusations that he's made against Erica Kirk, TPUSA, and Andrew Colvett, those violate every single ethical standard of both the Tennessee and the Florida bar. It would be a real shame if he was taken to task and held accountable for his ethical violations, given that he is a lawyer and what he's doing to undermine our own justice system. Now, I got to tell you, I actually owe Baron Coleman some gratitude because I wanted to prove to everybody that he was a professional propagandist. He has a long history, going back to his time as a government informant. That's right, he was a government informant that as a lawyer unethically went around and intentionally tried to create a whisper campaign in order to prejudice a jury. Can you imagine?
Oh, wow.
That's crazy. But besides that, I wanted to prove that he was a propagandist and he was lying about me and everybody else. And man, Baron Coleman has done yeoman's work to make this easy to prove. He is my #1 guy. As a matter of fact, Baron, I appoint you an honorary member of my harem of
Gary's broads.
But I don't want to put words in Baron's mouth. Let's listen to his lies about me from his own mouth.
That all of these attempted alibis, the Mitch Snow wasn't at Fort Huachuca. That went through Gary. He tricked Mitch Snow's son into confirming that Mitch Snow was at Fort Huachuca. That was not known. In fact, that was hotly debated at the time. If you remember, if you go back in time, when the Mitch Snow idea first populated, there was a lot of doubt whether he was even there.
Well, let's take his advice, go back in time and check the record because luckily the internet is forever. Let's see what I actually said prior to my December 27th interview with Mitch Snow's son. Look at this.
All right, folks, again, this is a very common tactic with disinformation. What they do is they confirm, they show you proof, or say they even confirm, the non-material elements of the story. All right? I can confirm you were there. Who cares? Who cares if you can confirm this guy was there, or you can confirm that he stayed at a freaking Best Western somewhere near Fort Huachuca? None of that matters. What matters is you confirm what he's saying, or anything. I mean, she confirms nothing ever. I mean, that's the problem with all this stuff. I don't doubt that he was, matter of fact, I'm quite sure he was down at Fort Huachuca. That doesn't mean anything. So for those of you who don't know, Candace Owens shared this, I don't know, as proof that Mitch Snow was there. And again, I don't doubt that Mitch Snow was there. And then she gives you this trash right here and says, oh, this is proof that the entire thing happened. I don't care if Mitch was at Fort Huachuca. A very common tactic with disinformation. What they do is they confirm, they show you proof, the non-material elements of the story. Point. And I don't care if it does. I don't doubt that he was there. All right, he's a weirdo. They said he was acting weird, making threats. The next thing you know, bomb dogs are called. Who cares if he was there? Brian Harpole wasn't there. Eric Kirk wasn't there. And no matter amount of proof, again, we have no proof of any of this. And they don't want to give you any proof of any of this. They don't want to give you any proof of any allegations, but they demand that you prove with evidence your innocence. That's not how the system works. All right, that's crazy. We're in crazy land. And the fact that that's the standard on which Candace operates constantly, it's just retarded. A very common tactic with disinformation. What they do is they confirm, they show you proof, the non-material elements of the story.
The Mitch Snow wasn't at Fort Huachuca. That went through Gary.
The Mitch Snow wasn't at Fort Huachuca. That went through Gary.
Do you see what Baghdad Bob did right there? He proved my entire point about disinformation. He wants to distract you completely away from the fact that Candace Owens didn't provide any evidence of a single material claim. And then what he did, he created a complete new narrative that refocuses your attention on a claim that was never made at all and isn't one of the substantive claims. We don't care if Mitch Snow was there. But I always stated, I believe Mitch Snow was there because that's how disinformation works. And man, Barron, did you prove my point? You went right back to that point that I said, hey, this is what they're going to do. They're going to focus on the non-material claims, and that's exactly what you did. But luckily, you are a man of character and integrity because this is what you said right here.
I have this open standing agreement with anyone who has evidence that I've been wrong or that my opinion needs to be changed. Give me the evidence and I'll change my opinion. I'll make a correction. That goes for everything I've said. Everything.
Well, thank you, Barron. I appreciate that offer. I'm going to take you up on it because now that I've proven beyond a reasonable doubt that you have lied for months out there defaming me, claiming that I said something that I didn't and making a whole shtick about it. Oh, look at Gary. Look what he did. I never said those things. So I'm sure at any moment you're going to issue a statement retracting every bit of that nonsense and you're going to come out and you're going to come clean with everybody out there. So I'll be waiting right here, waiting for you to retract your entire bullshit statement that you've been pushing around for the last few months. Oh, and you really should debate Andrew Wilson. I'm sure all the lies, all the nonsense that you've been pushing for the last 6 months, riding on the coattails of Candace Owens, I'm sure he won't be able to touch any of that stuff. Anyways, everybody else, you have a wonderful day. And until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.
Shout out to Gary. Shout out to Gary. Oh, the music. Shout out to Gary. Oh, man. Oh, you know he's not going to do it. That's okay. That's okay. I think I already know what plan B is, what the backup plan is. Shout out. That's going to be fun. Let's see how this shakes out, y'all. I mean, hey, wait. Now let's be honest. Maybe Barron will just admit I was wrong. I said it wrong. I did wrong and keep it moving. I mean, it's in the realm of possibility, but I don't think he's going to use his free will. See what I did there? I don't think he's going to use his free will in that proper way. But what do y'all think? Let me know. Comment below. I really do appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to reach out to Gary, see what happens next. We will keep you dialed in. We'll keep you dialed in for sure. All right. Okay, shout out. I appreciate y'all. Looks like some good conversation going on in here. Bronson's real name, I don't know his full name. Oh, I'm sorry, Barron Coleman, Coleman, like Gary Coleman. Funny. Is Gary live right now? Is live right now? Let me see. I didn't know he was going to be live, which isn't surprising. I don't know why I'm like totally surprised, right? And I am not going to stay up tonight, though. I have got work to get done. He's over here talking to Ryan Morano, expose the global seditionist movement. That's interesting. What is that? He's over there rocking. Y'all check out Gary. I'm gonna get up out of here. Oh, first and middle. I'll have to find that out. I'll have to find that out. I'll look into it and I'll make sure that you know. Just saying for sure. I'll make sure we get that. And I appreciate it though for sure. Let me see. I'm just looking to see if I see it. I don't see it, but I'll make sure we find it. I'll make sure we find it for sure. Okay, and now I'm just looking to see if I'm missing anything before we get ready to bug out of here. This is gonna be a good week. I think it's gonna be fun. Everybody, thank y'all again. Tomorrow is Tuesday. Lord willing, we're gonna come back and have another great show tomorrow evening. I think I have another video popping up tonight. If not, I gotta finish up my final four. So I'm pretty sure. Let me look at it real quick. Y'all, that was such a crazy idea. I was like, I got this idea. I'm gonna make my own bracket. And it looks like it turned out pretty well. Okay, let me pull this in real quick. All right, what we got here? All right, so yeah, it looks like Asmongold is running away with it. It looks like he's looks like Asmongold is going to be the champion. I'm gonna stop at 9:00. I'll cut it off at 9. So unless share screen. All right, if you want to vote on my Final Four bracket, remove that and put this in. All right, if you want to go to my community post, I got I seeded my top 8 videos for the month. I put number 1 versus number 8, number 2 versus number 7, and so forth. Now we whittled it down to the top 2 videos of the month. Go and support it. Let me know which one you like the most, all that kind of stuff like that. Tomorrow is tomorrow April 1st? No, tomorrow's not April 1st, right? Yeah, it is. No, it's not. I don't remember. All right. Well, anyway, I got a celebration. No, tomorrow's the 31st. On Wednesday, we're going to celebrate our Final Four. I got something fun that you all might like. A lot of people have been asking for it, so something new is coming up on Wednesday. Yeah, it's the 31st. What am I talking about? Y'all don't look. When you're not a school teacher, you realize there's a lot of stuff that you forget, like St. Patrick's Day, like all holidays now. As a retiree, you don't think about them anymore. But when I was teaching, you're always thinking about them. You're always waiting for the next holiday, whatever. I don't think about how many days in a month anymore. I just found out yesterday that Ethiopia has a different calendar, and their calendar has 13 months in it. I didn't know that. Did you know that? So they're actually like in 2018 now instead of 2026 because they have an extra month in their calendar. Who knew? I have no idea. I don't know why they do, but too many birthdays. Mine is in April. Shout out to all April babies. All April babies unite. April babies unite. Me and Chief Executive Second Born, our birthdays are in April. But y'all, thank you so much for rocking with me. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for a wonderful month of March. I'm still making my way to 100,000 subscribers. And it would kind of slow down some, but hey, help a brother out. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. I mean, we hanging out, we might as well, right? Thank you so much for liking the videos and hyping them and commenting, all that kind of stuff like that, engaging in my silly Final Four bracket, Elite 8 bracket, all that kind of jazz like that. So I really do appreciate all of y'all. Thank you so very much for that. It's going to be a great month. I'm looking forward to celebrating the end of March and going into April, having a great time with you. I do have some pretty fun interviews planned in April as well. I'll keep you posted because I will not be in the studio with them. So who knows where I'll be? You just never know. Just let you know that ahead of time. The Macron case, we're still keeping up with that. We're still keeping up with the Carmelo Anthony case as well. There's a couple other cases that are going to be popping up. So we'll be definitely talking about those throughout the month. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot more updates on that in April. The Carmelo Anthony case is actually supposed to start in earnest in June. So it's going to be a wild summer. So shout out to everybody. Appreciate y'all. I am going to get out of here. Y'all have a fantastic night. I'll see you all real soon. Grace and peace. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Jay Whip Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please do me a favor and hit me up with that 3-piece special. Like the video, subscribe, and of course, share it with somebody who would also enjoy this type of content. And make sure you leave a comment because I do pin the best comments to the top. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And until next time, everybody, grace and peace.